Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, November 7th, 2022, and this is a regular meeting of the City of Asbury Park Planning Board. Chairwoman Kurzak, can you please call this meeting to order?
Yes, so I'm calling this meeting to order. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the municipal bulletin board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the board secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before this board. Fire exits are located on the east and west sides of council chambers, as well as the back of the building. I will ask everyone with a cell phone or other device to kindly silence your device for the duration of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded by APTV. And one thing that you should also know is that, yes, it is warm in here, and it will continue to be so. So we cannot seem to get the air working. So please join me in a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance. Flag. United States of America. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. Mayor John Moore.
Here.
Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
James Bonanno.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Alexis Taylor will be absent today. Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Daniel Shenameo.
Here.
Vice Chair Rick Lambert. Is he absent? And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. Okay, the first item on the agenda is some old business that we have for 407 Lake Avenue.
Good evening. If I may, Andrew Karras on behalf of Toll Brothers Asbury Park. I'll be brief. As you may recall, a resolution had been passed about 2 weeks ago with regard to the project at 407 Lake. One of the conditions that was in there had to do with the little public area, you would call it, on the Heck Street side. The resolution that was passed had called for benches, or a wall rather, to be constructed. My concern is, since it is in the public right-of-way, when it goes to the mayor and council, they may not agree to that. And if they do, we're going to get bounced back and forth, trying to get the resolution approved, or rather the project approved, on whether or not there should be a wall or benches. So I'd like to make a suggestion, if we could. What I'd like to see is have the resolution include language that states the preference is to have the wall as indicated in that area, but in the event a right-of-way is not approved by the mayor and council, it goes back to the original plan. If the board is good with that, then that's what I would like to see occur, be put into the resolution. Again, it avoids going back and forth between the two on what would be a sitting wall or benches. I don't think it warrants the time, to be honest with you, to go back and forth on that one issue.
Any comments from the board?
I'll make a quick comment, just that I agree it doesn't make any sense to go back and forth on something like that, but I also just want to reiterate, I mean, that my preference is for the seat wall. I know that's what you just said for the planning board, and that I think that it would be a better design solution for that space, and would not cause more maintenance issues.
We have no issue with that,
Yeah.
but we're just concerned that when it gets to the mayor and council, if they don't agree, because they have to issue the right-of-way easement on that, then we're stuck in the middle.
Understood.
Jay, could you give us some advice on that?
Well, you can do it. It's entirely up to the board. If you want to do it in the alternative, that's fine. It's okay.
Does anybody else on the board have any feelings about this one way or another? Anyone against this? Anybody want to have any comments at all?
Yeah, I think it's an acceptable solution. We should clearly state that there was a stated preference for a seating wall, and we hope that that type of design is something that would make the space as good as it possibly could be and as public feeling, and it's better option than benches. So But if the city council and, you know, their deliberations decide that a bench is where it goes, then it shouldn't come back for that. Well, a bench, benches, benches,
Well, he said as
many of
originally
them.
was submitted. Was there multiple benches submitted in the original plan?
I don't have a plan in front of me, whatever was in the
Donna's
plan.
indicating yes.
Yeah,
So
it should
that's-
be a significant number of benches. It's supposed to be a public space and a gateway across the pedestrian.
We can't do significant.
No, we have to do a
Significant is
certain
more than
quantity.
five.
I would submit what is in the plans.
Can you-
Well, then we would need to know how many that was. Do we have any idea? All right, so
I
then,
wouldn't.
I would put whatever the number is that we would
The
like.
original plan as submitted?
I don't know how many there are.
I know it's more than one, but whatever was reflected
Donna,
in
maybe
this
I
plan.
can-
I think there were like 2 or 4, or
Yeah,
one on
and-
each side of each like of those planters. I think there's 2 or 3 planters, but there's about 1 on each side.
And
So 2,
I think,
Oh.
it should be 4, two per side.
2 per side.
But our concern was that wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so that a seating wall was a more flexible and, you know, better way to provide a, you know, a larger amount of seating. Now, we shouldn't just end up with, you know, not very much seating as a result.
Why don't I swear in Donna? She might have something to speak. Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about the give and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Uh,
Donna Miller, board planner.
Thank you.
So just as Eric was saying, you know, the plan that was submitted had a few benches. The board felt that a greater capacity of seating and flexibility of seating would occur with a seat wall. And so the preference was for the seat wall design. Individual benches, again, based on the design that was proposed, might actually be more maintenance because of, you know, slats and things coming out, whereas a seat wall is, you know, infrastructure kind of design. But obviously the board can, you know, prioritize its recommendations to the governing body. Although the ultimate,
So can we say that we'd like 4 if it doesn't happen? Is that,
I believe 4 is what was submitted on the plans.
okay,
So-
but since we're not sure what was submitted on the
I
plans,
feel like we should be at 6.
and if you give me 2 seconds, I will tell you exactly how many were on the plan.
okay?
So there are 3 planter islands within the plaza area, and then a planter at the northeast corner. And each of those locations have 1 bench specified in the plan.
So what,
So we would recommend that there would be 4 benches at the very least per planter.
Why don't we do one on each side? What are they, 2 planters or 2 planter groupings in there?
There's 3 planters, and then there's that sort of, it's in the landscaping of the townhouse project, there's 1 in there. But the ones that are actually in the plaza area, there's the one on the west side of the driveway, and there's 2 on the east side of south side of the driveway, and 1 on the north side of the driveway.
Aren't there 3 benches?
There's 1 bench.
I don't know how many benches we're talking about.
There's 1 bench per planter,
And there,
3 planters.
all right, so you have 3 benches.
Yeah, and that's in the landscape.
So are we saying 6?
So you put 1 on each side of the planters, no, 3 planter groupings.
Well, I think what Eric and Jen are saying is that that's not enough and enough flexibility. You would want 1 on either side, so you have an interior and exterior, but you also have each end of each planter. Because they're
They're pretty big.
Yeah, they're almost 30 feet long. What is this, 24? Yeah, they're almost 30 feet long. So you do, so 4 per planter is not an unreasonable request for the type of flexibility and seating capacity that we're thinking of for this to be, you know,
Occupiable space.
someplace
Well, I think
that's.
that's how we got to the seat wall discussion,
Which is
because
why
it was
we got
like
to
a
the seat
simpler,
wall.
it was
It's a
simpler.
simpler solution, and it provides probably even more seating than that. And
Again,
it's
the
gonna be
flexibility.
lower, right,
Do I
and
want the sun on
flexibility.
me? Do
So, right,
it out of the
here it's
sun
a group
now?
of 2, a group of 3, a group of 4.
But keeping in mind, you're in a right of way, so ultimately the decision is by the mayor and council as to what they're doing.
And
That's
they're
why
aware
we're
of
having
that.
this discussion,
They're sitting
right?
here.
If they decide the seawall isn't the right solution, we hope that they would err on the side of having more seating in that area than less. And one bench per planting area doesn't seem like a lot or enough.
Okay, so now the mayor and councilwoman have heard your concerns, so that when it comes, they hear it, they already know, but I need a number.
So, 4 per area is the recommendation. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
So it's 4 per area and there are 3 areas.
So it's
Is that what you're saying?
Okay.
Okay. So it's 12.
12.
Okay.
That's pretty much the consensus.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there enough room for 4 per area?
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
There's
It
no
is.
question.
We'll fit it in.
Yeah,
Okay, the
they're
motion-
30 feet long on each side. That's one bench and 30 feet.
That's funny.
The motion to approve the application with all of the conditions, including the one we're going to amend, was moved by Mayor Moore, seconded by Councilwoman Clayton, and the other members in attendance voted in favor, with the exception of Barbara Krizak, who abstained, which was within 200 feet, and Dan Shenemayer was in those. So will be the other. Maria, you got the list of who could vote? If not, I can give it to you, or I can do it.
I do not have that.
Okay, why don't I do it then for you? So can we get a motion?
I can't, I'm recused.
No, Barbara's
Yeah,
abstaining.
I'm
and,
recused.
I'll watch you through it.
You just need a motion for that.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Hold on, we got a
That you're gonna
motion
walk me through.
by James. One second here. It's 407 Lake. Have a second?
Jennifer?
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's go right down the line. Jennifer, Mr. Gallipo.
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer?
Yes.
Yvonne?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
And James?
Yes.
Thank you. Any negative votes? None? Ayes have it.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, the next application? Is there a change to the agenda?
545?
Yeah, the app is, number one, under new or pending applications was PB 2021-614 Cookman LLC. Applicant is, Mr. Karras represents both applicants. He's requesting a reversal, and then he would like to address 545 first, and at the time permitting to address 614. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, then since you have both applications, I'm leaving it to you to decide where the break is between the two applications. Normally, it would be 8:30. You choose. Okay?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
If I may, Andrew Karras, again from the firm Fox Rothschild, on behalf of the applicant, 545 Lake Avenue Urban Realty LLC. We're here, as the board is well aware, we came here last time, there were issues with regard to the completeness or deeming the application complete. So we went back and made significant revisions to the plans. What I believe addressed all, if not most, of the board's concerns and also the board planner in terms of the completeness of the application. I have gone through the updated report from CCH that's dated November 3rd, 2022. And I do note that within her report of CCH, it's indicated that the items are sufficient to deem the application complete, such that we can go ahead and proceed with the hearing tonight. Am I correct with that?
Well, why don't we let's get my witnesses sworn in. Don, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about giving this matter the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah.
Please state your names for the record and give us your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Doug Cleland, board engineer.
Thank you. I suppose why don't we mark our two reports? I think we're up to B3.
That is correct. The original reports were B1 and B2, so the updated reports, and I'll have the CCH report,
That would be B3.
B3 and
That's dated originally September 23rd, 2022, updated November 3, 2022.
that is correct. And then the Insight report has a date on there of October 27th of 2022. That's B4.
You call the witness?
Not yet?
No.
I just want to make sure that the application or the plans are sufficient to deem the application complete so that we can go ahead and then proceed with the testimony tonight.
Let's go.
Very good. The property that we're talking about is 545 Lake Ave. It's block 3105, lot 4.02. The application for which we're here tonight with regard to this application is to amend a prior preliminary and final neighbor site plan approval. As the board may very well be aware, the property at issue is located within the CBD redevelopment area, the Lake Ave residential district. A little bit of the history, the lot size is 20,000 square feet. The building that had been approved is 77,328 square feet. There's a resolution that had been approved in June of 2017 that was for a 60-unit, 5-story multifamily residential building having 88 parking spaces that included handicap parking. Since the parking wasn't sufficient, funds were distributed, or rather deposited into the parking fund to make up for the parking for which it was lacking, both for the 550 property and also this property. Just for the board's edification, now, October of 2018, another resolution has been adopted by this board having to do with the condition on the site. Similarly, in April of 2019, 2 years after the original approval, another resolution was adopted having to do with a parking agreement in effect at the time and the bearing that it had with regard to this particular site. All that having been taken care of, we had to go through some litigation with regard to a redevelopment plan. My client then was finally able to pull building permits to begin constructing the building. The building is near complete, however, certain revisions were made to the design of the building, and that is the reason we are here tonight with regard to this application for amended approval. I have a number of witnesses I will be calling. First is Chris Collins and Treasurer Rob, and I'll be following up with David Bucinelli, our architect, Michael Dwyer from Bowler, and then Mr. Sackman, Carter Sackman, to provide the final testimony on this application. Mr. Collins will be the first witness that I call tonight.
Before we do that, let's get it on the record that Jennifer Sauer, who's here this evening, was not here for the September 27th meeting, so she's ineligible to vote. However, she can participate in the discussion.
I don't think it matters, Jack, because the application was not deemed complete back in September.
Okay, if there's no objection that she will participate in the vote this evening from the applicant, then I'll let that happen.
Yeah, we didn't take any testimony, so.
Okay, so Although I think we had testimony.
Yeah,
But only with regard to completeness.
That's
Exactly.
fine, what
Okay,
you're
so
saying.
then that's fine, you can participate and vote, so that's fine. Sir, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about to give this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
Christopher Collins, CHRISTOPHER. Collins, COLLINS.
Thank you.
Are you able to get your phone?
Yeah, is the TV?
Oh, they-
on? No, just needs to-
Mr. Collins, can you please give the board the benefit of your qualifications?
Sure. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I've been engaging in site civil engineering in development for the past 7 years. And I previously testified in planning boards in New Jersey.
And you've been qualified as an expert engineer before planning boards throughout the entire state of New Jersey, am I correct?
Correct.
Have you testified before this board on previous occasions?
Only on the prior hearing, September.
You're licensed, am I correct?
Yes.
I would offer him as an expert engineer.
And everything's up to date?
Yes.
Okay.
The plans that we see up on the board, these are plans that you had participated in drawing, am I correct?
Correct.
Can you give us the last revision date of these plans, and then we're going to have these marked?
The last revision date of these plans is October 14th, 2022.
Did we mark any exhibits at the last hearing? I know we marked the reports, I don't know if we marked any.
Reports, we definitely did,
So
yeah.
this will be A1 for identification. So A1 for identification is the Dresner-Robin report, that's up on the board. All right, can you please go through the report? What I want you to focus on are the revisions that you made in this plan, the revisions that you made to the plans, with, in particular, with regard to the prior approvals. Okay.
Sure. So on the cover sheet, on the zoning table, we've indicated a few new deviations from the redevelopment plan requirements that are new compared to the prior approval. Some of those have to do with the parking, which I'll go into in a little bit. And the other set of deviations has to do with the lighting, mostly having to do with the fact that the city enacted a lighting ordinance or new lighting regulations since the original approval. So we were requesting relief from some of those.
What I want you to do is go on to the second page of the plan, C-301. And go to train capacity. What I want you to do is go through on C-301, the parking layout, the aisles, the parking that we have in there, and also on the front of the building, any changes that were made, both on our property and also in the right of way.
Sure. So I will start in the front. The accessible ramp up to the front of the building.
Can you please use your cursor so that we can see what you're speaking about? And if you could make it bigger when you're speaking about a particular area, that would be really helpful. So the audience can see it as well.
Sure. So the accessible ramp in the front of the building here, I can make it bigger in this mode, has gotten longer, and that has to do with an interior layout change in the building so that previously there was another set of ramps inside the building to make up the additional grade. We've relocated all of that ramp outside so that whether you're in a wheelchair or coming up the stairs, you land in the lobby in the same place.
Sorry.
In addition to that.
So before we get to that, so the original plans that were approved had two separate entrances, one going up the stairs and then one for the handicap, am I correct?
Correct.
Service the handicap ramp, am I
Right.
correct?
Right.
So that entrance for the handicap ramp was eliminated, so now you have one common entrance, both for the stairs and for the handicap ramp, correct?
Correct.
All right, go on.
And there are some other modifications to the landscaping, which the landscape architect will provide testimony for in a little bit. Over here on the west side of the building, we have a transformer pad, which I'll explain when we get to the utility plan. And then we made some very minor modifications in the rear of the property to some of the ramps and access to the 550 Cookman building, as well as adding a walkway on the east side of the building to provide access to a bike storage room in the northeast corner of the building.
Now, with regard to the transformer, that's on the exterior of the building, and why don't you put the arrow on that so we can see it? Now, on the approved plans, you're familiar with those, am I correct?
Correct.
And the approved plans had on there a utility room, but it did not have a transformer room, am I correct?
Correct.
Go
And with regards to the previous approval, all of the curb cuts, driveway widths, all of those have stayed the same in the same locations. The other biggest change is the parking. Consistent with prior approval, there still is a valet-operated stacker parking system. However, the number of parking spaces in that system has increased from 88 to 113. And that was achieved by creating depressions in the slab to accommodate another level of parking. There are some deviations related to the parking width or the stall width and the aisle width. Those fall short of the standards, but since this is a valet-operated stacker system, there will be no conflicting movements because there will only be one person operating the system and pulling cars in and out and driving in the aisle. So it's not functioning like a normal self-park system.
Okay, continue.
It's the grading and drainage plan. There have been some very, very minor changes to this plan, namely adding two very small inlets in some of one in the revised landscape area over here on this upper tier, and then another back here in this walkway. Everything else is the same. The only other change here is the parking. The floor elevation has changed. It's increased by approximately 1 foot.
Has that impacted the height of the building?
No, the height of the building remains the same.
So where do you lose that foot then?
If the architect can testify as to that, using the grade plane calculation and the building height calculation that's provided in the ordinance, we are still below the 60-foot height.
I'm sorry, where did, you mentioned it was 1 foot lower?
1 foot higher,
1 foot higher.
correct.
So where's that foot going? Where is the foot compared to where it was before? Is it lower? Are you digging? Or where's the foot?
The finished floor elevation of the garage in the prior approval was 11.6, it's now 12.58.
So it's just a matter of the floor elevation increased 1 foot, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no digging?
No.
No digging, okay.
Well, when you say no, there were pits
New
for the
pits?
stackers.
All right, new pits?
Sorry?
New pits?
Pits to put the stackers in, that is correct.
Okay.
We'll have testimony from
All right, you'll have
architect.
testimony about that later.
But the main floor of the garage, notwithstanding the pits, is 1 foot higher than previously approved.
It starts 1 foot high, it's not, you're not talking about the clear ceiling height in the garage.
Right, it starts 1 foot higher.
Starts.
Yeah.
So the height is still the same in the garage?
I believe so. with our-
We'll confirm that.
We'll confirm that with the architect.
Are you saying then that the headroom on the ground floor is 1 foot less than it was?
We'll have the architect provide that testimony. But I believe that is the case.
So since we're on the utility plan, I'd like to address the pad-mounted electrical transformer equipment. As Mr. Harris stated, there was a utility room in the prior approval. And since then, further coordination with GCP&L, they determined that the transformer was to be located on the opposite side of the street in the public right-of-way. And after coordination with the city, we understood that the city would not allow that transformer to be placed across the street in the right-of-way. And I believe Mr. Sackman testified some of that correspondence with the city. And so JCP&L chose to place a transformer in this location here, along with some associated electrical equipment. It's my understanding that this transformer also services the Moonstruck restaurant building next door.
So is this in the city right of way?
It is partially within the city.
Can we see where that is? What's
This
the
line
partial?
here that runs right through the middle here, that's the right-of-way line.
That's the what?
That's the right-of-way line.
Okay, so like half of it is in the right of way. Plus, what is beyond it that is probably almost double the right of way? What is that? Those slash lines? What is that?
Oh, that's just a landscape area hatch.
So you chose to go even further into the right of way?
No. You have to look at the approved plans.
Well,
There was-
no, this was not approved.
No, let me finish. There was landscaping within the city right-of-way in the approved plans.
Mm-hmm.
And that landscaping there, am I correct, that was part of what was approved in the city right-of-way?
Yes, that was previously shown to be a landscaped area. From
Okay.
the building face to the sidewalk edge.
And were these plans approved by the city saying it's a right of way? Like
And
the city
easement
council
right-of-way was sent to the city as required, to Michelle Lonzo.
and the mayor and council approved it?
That I don't know. It was sent as required, and what happened to it, I don't know.
Okay, so that's outstanding. Okay, go ahead.
Returned?
Normally, the city records it. I haven't received it.
That was for this current configuration?
No, for the prior one.
Landscape.
So you consider the ramp and all that's part of the landscaping?
No, there was, the original ramp that was in there was an easement, right-of-way easement
Right.
that was required for that. This is a little bit different in terms of the design, but the original approval had the ramp going into the right-of-way.
Yeah, as it is now. As it is also.
No, it's a little bit different now.
Well, the ramp is there, the whole kind of porch and the front stairs were part of the original easement, but only the ADA ramp was changed, is that what you're saying?
The stairs were part of the original easement.
Yeah, I'm just saying, they're in the right of way.
The stairs were in the right.
So only the ADA ramp and the utilities are different.
And this area up here expanded, so this is like an upper.
Oh, so that did expand farther into the city, right?
It expanded,
Okay, so that
you
wasn't.
could, yeah, it
that
expanded
wasn't part of it.
to the west, yeah.
But when you look at the original plans that were approved, that landscaping came all the way out to the side.
Yeah, but the porch, the front kind of porch area. So I'm trying to get a grasp of what moved over, so.
And did the amount of impervious surface within the city right-of-way increase as a result of these changes?
I believe the amount of landscaping increased. We'll have our,
Okay, we'll need testimony to understand that,
Yeah.
there's landscape testimony we're going to provide.
specifically related to the change, to any changes in the amount of impervious surface.
We'll provide
within
that
area.
testimony.
Mr. Collins, when did you first learn that there was a problem with the location of the transformer?
Well, it wasn't a problem with the location. Originally, PSE&G wanted it across the street, but at the direction of Michelle Alonso, it went to the front of the building.
The approved plans indicated there was no transformer on the south side of the building, correct?
The approved plans have no transformer on the front of the building, or outside the front of the building.
When,
That is
Mr.
correct.
Collins, when did you first learn that there was a problem with the location and that you had to move the transformer to the location you show on these plans?
I was made aware after it was put in.
When?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Well, actually, then the same question would hold for, about the ramp. When were you made aware that the ramp would change from what was approved? When were you made aware of that?
I believe it was earlier this year.
This year?
Okay.
How early?
I couldn't tell you.
Keeping in mind that we had submitted this application in or around, I should say March of this year. So right around then is when it was submitted. But one thing I want to clarify, when you say the transformer, all right, that was moved there at the direction of one of the persons from the city, the director of planning. So I just wanted to be clear when you say the issue that arose. Originally was supposed to be across the street, that's where JCP&L wanted it. Ms. Alonso didn't want it there, she wanted it here. So the direction of the city was to put it in this location.
And the question still was the same, so it's
So I just
fine.
wanted to be clear, that's what happened.
We're, as you all know, that we're concerned about right-of-way, we're concerned about all the modifications that were made and when they were made.
Do you have emails or letters to that effect?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Was the ADA ramp to the street, was that in the original plan also?
Yes.
In which original plan?
In the, sorry, the one that was approved.
The approved plan?
The approved plan had an ADA ramp on the exterior of the building that was
I'm sorry, the
partially.
one to the street, actually like on the curb. To the left there, where all the,
Over here?
no, the left.
Oh, sorry.
Like on the street. Down. That.
Oh, that's a curb cut.
Curb cut, yeah, that's not for a driveway, right? It's a driveway, it's only one driveway, so that's, is that ADA ramp?
Yeah, no, that's a curb cut to provide access to the trash room.
Okay.
And was that on the original plan?
Correct, that's unchanged from the original plan.
So can you tell me once again what changed with the ramp from the original, the plans that were approved to this plan? What changed with the ramp?
So the
Because I'm
ramp,
unclear.
the ramp just got a little bit longer. It was more or less in the same configuration, in the switchback configuration, just got a little longer. Again, to make up that additional elevation change from removing the internal ramp inside the building. Because as Mr. Karras noted, that there were two separate entrances, one for this ADA ramp and one for people coming up the stairs. So that was consolidated into this one entrance. So this got longer. The stairs, I believe, are in the same spot. And then this, there's a retaining wall here with the seating area adjacent to the lobby that was added, I believe.
Give us a definition of a little bit longer. I mean, is it 3 inches? Is it 50,000 feet? I mean, come on, you got to know what it is, so let's not play. What is it?
I would say that it increased approximately 10 to 20 feet in length.
Thank you.
Which way, west? West? East, how did,
East.
which way it got longer? East. And, but so the western, where it ended, is where it ended before? I mean, because you said there were two entrances, so where was the entrance? Into the gym before?
Correct, it was in the location of where the gym is.
So now the gym is new, that's another change?
The architect can testify to that.
Okay.
What we can do is, Donna has the original plan that shows.
I
the
think
dimensions.
I
Okay,
have.
Can you
It's
do
only
that?
for the
Give-
architect
Give the
to-
board specific information in terms of where it was and sizing.
Picture's worth 1,000 words in this case.
See it here. I can.
I just have to indicate, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage tonight, my glasses broke. So I'm using very long arms and trying to read this stuff.
So on the prior approval, the ramp was in a more compact configuration. It was it was more of a perpendicular configuration, so it started about here, went this way, came up, went back this way.
So did the finished floor of the lobby also increase along with the finished floor of the garage?
It did, yes. It increased by that same
So the
amount.
new ramp had to account for not only the difference in elevation from the internal ramp, but also a foot for a higher lobby.
That's correct.
If the board prefers, I have copies of the plans that were approved to make it easier.
Whatever you like, but we're still going to be asking the same
I know, but
questions.
just so the board can look at the plans as we go through.
What about the gym? Can you tell me about the gym? Because it was asked, is the gym new also? Because the door, the ADA door was going to the gym. Is the gym new?
Yes.
I
Okay.
believe it's new in that location, but the architect can testify.
The architect can testify in terms of how the design, the internal design was laid out. But when I look at the plans that were approved, that was a lobby area in the front.
And how much further into the right-of-way does the new ramp extend? You said it was between 10 and 20 feet longer. How much further into the right-of-way does it extend?
Well, there was always a piece of the ramp in the right-of-way, a significant piece of the ramp. So on the prior approval, it appears that approximately half the ramp was in the right-of-way and approximately half was out. In this case, with the new design, we've provided a little bit of a landscape buffer between the building and the ramp. So it got pushed into the right-of-way a little bit more.
What is a little bit more? I've asked you to give me a,
Specific answer to the question, you asked for a specific answer, distance. Can you do it?
Do you know what that is?
So in the prior approval, the ramp was approximately 10 feet wide in total, of which 5 feet was in the right-of-way and 5 feet was out. In the new design, approximately 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet of the ramp is within the property line, and the remainder is in the right way.
and what is the remainder?
You said
You
about
said
10 feet wide.
you've changed the angle of that ramp. It's no longer parallel to the original piece.
One second, I can measure it. ramp extends approximately 16 and a half feet into the right of way.
More than before, correct?
Correct.
So the ramp went from 10 feet to 18 feet.
Now, if it extends 16 feet in where previously it
No,
extended
no, no,
5 feet.
he said the width before was 10 feet. It was 5 and 5. Now he said the width is 2 feet on their property and 16 feet on the city property. So it went from 10 to 18. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's hard to make an apples to apples comparison because the configuration is so different. So, you know, in the prior approval, it was a 90-degree switchback. So the switchback width in total was 10 feet. 5 feet going up and 5 feet
Let's
continuing
do
to go.
this. From the building, the face of the building to the property line is what, about 5 feet?
5 feet, correct.
Okay. And the previous approval had the ramp at 10 feet, whereby half was within the property and then half in the right-of-way, am I correct?
Correct.
From the face of the building to the end of the ramp here, how many feet is that?
It's almost 20 feet.
So you take away the 5, so you have 15 feet into the right-of-way, whereby before it was 5 feet, so the difference of 10 feet, am I correct?
Correct.
And it used to only be 18 feet long, and now it's 30 feet long.
Makes it more square foot.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's not only distance from the building, it's overall area.
And the
Coverage, and
has
coverage
changed.
permeable versus impermeable, which we'll discuss later.
Where it hits the sidewalk, that sidewalk runs straight right along Lake Ave, am I correct?
Correct.
So you have Moonstruck on the one side, and then you have the beer garden on the other side, am I correct?
Correct.
And that continuous line is the sidewalk on both sides, correct?
Correct.
And then you have on Moonstruck, the way the landscaping is lined up in this plan lines up the landscaping that you have in Moonstruck and also at the patio at the beer garden, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So it creates one continuous line all the way across, right?
Mhm.
You've been out to the site, am I correct?
Yes.
So you're familiar with how the site presently looks, am I correct? Correct. What I want to do is I want to mark this, I guess we're on A2 for identification, is that correct?
Yes, we are.
I'm going to mark it on
Ebenezer?
Where is it? They're back there.
Is that a photo or a computer generated? You're gonna lay a foundation?
So I'm going to have you take a look at what I've marked as A2 for identification. That's a photo, am I correct, of the existing conditions on Lake Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And that's 545, this building that we're talking about, am I correct?
Mhm.
Now, you didn't take this, but you're familiar with what the conditions are, am I correct?
Yes.
And this is consistent with your observations recently of what we see outside this building, am I correct?
Yes.
And that reflects the ramp as it is today, am I correct?
Yes.
And it shows the sidewalk as it extends going west down Lake Ave, am I correct? And it shows up here on the east side what is Moonstruck, correct?
Yes.
So you have basically a consistent line that has been developed all along Lake Ave, along with the landscaping and the ramp. Am I correct?
Yes.
So this is built already?
Correct.
So we're trying to approve something that's already built?
That is correct.
That wasn't approved? Wasn't approved, but it was built?
That is correct.
That's a new one.
The prior approval that had been given had a separate entrance coming off this ramp into the building, correct?
Yes.
And right now, we have a singular door that serves both the ramp and the stairs into the building, am I correct?
Yes.
Are there any other questions with regards to the ramp? Okay. Let's move on.
Moving on to lighting. So the lighting design has changed since the prior approval. There have been a number of changes, first being the street light fixture has changed. Those are not installed yet, but the model has changed from the prior approval. And given the other changes to the front of the building, there have been some changes to the lights that have been mounted on the building. And in addition, we've made some modifications to the lights around the sides and rear of the property, given that this is a access walkway to the neighboring property to the rear of 550 Cookman. We wanted to make sure that we have appropriate light levels in those locations.
And what are the light levels that you place within the locations on either side of the building?
On either side of the building, the foot candle values range from approximately 1 to approximately 6.
And where you have the higher light candles, where exactly is that?
Well, they're concentrated right in front of where the fixtures are themselves.
And where are those placed?
Those are placed in locations above the doors for the stairwells on either side of the property, as well as the entry points to 550 Cookman. There are a number of doors along this corridor here that are lit by wall-mounted fixtures.
Now, the lights on both the east and west of the building, those are essentially within alleyways. One alley that's between Moonstruck and the other alley that's between the beer garden, am I correct?
Correct.
And the reason for the increased lighting is to ensure safety in those areas, am I correct?
That's correct.
Those are basically walls on either side that you have in those buildings, am I correct?
Yes.
Continue on.
So can I ask why? So we didn't approve these initially, the lighting that we're talking about now? Is that true?
There was lighting that was.
Yeah, there was a lighting, but what changed? In the time between when we approved the application to now, what changed that you determined we need more light? Or that the light has to be different, or the fixture has to be different? What changed?
Sure. So it's my understanding that there were a number of supply issues given, the difference in time from when it was originally approved and when the building actually got started to be built, and orders were being placed for those. I think some of the fixtures just weren't available. And then, as I mentioned, the changes to the front of the building led to changes to the lighting to adequately light the areas.
Now, the additional lighting was done for.
Excuse me, are you finished with your?
So far you've told me that the actual fixtures are different, which I don't see any samples of. Will we see those from someone else, or is this the lighting presentation for the evening? I just want to be sure.
We have details of the lighting on the plans, we don't have physical.
Well, I'm saying that usually we have some sort of a photo
On the plans.
on the plans themselves, so you'll
Why don't
show
we
me
go-
those
yeah,
later.
Why don't we go to the?
Okay. The other thing is that we've always known that these exits existed. Did the exits change so that we need more light that we didn't know before? Right? All, because you're mentioning that the higher voltage, of the higher lighting is at those entrances and exits. How did that change since we approved the plans last?
That has not changed.
Okay, so we've determined that we need more light from experience, from what? How did we determine we needed more light? Because this is a waiver, this is a change in the plan.
Correct.
Now, you can go back to the original, there's no issue with going back to the original approval, but you think, or do you think, based upon the alleyway, that this is safer to have this additional lighting as opposed to what was approved?
The additional light is actually on the sides of the building, on the east and west sides, is actually fairly similar to what was previously approved, which had light levels in the 3 to 6 foot candle range. So that part hasn't changed. In the prior approval, we did not analyze the lights on the 550 Cookman building, which lights that back alleyway. So we wanted to make sure that we were providing adequate light levels along those doors to 550 Cookman. So we analyzed it here for this amended submission. So I wouldn't say there's been a change in the need for safety. There is just a change in the type and location of the fixtures. Now, also in the prior approval, we had, I believe it was 12 wall-mounted fixtures along the front of the building. And when we changed the fixture, we realized that it would actually be given the street lights and the lights across the street and the other lights on the property, that the light levels would actually be too high. So that's why we've reduced the number of lights along the front of the wall-mounted lights on the front of the building.
So, all right, so that's on Cookman. So.
No, on
I'm sorry, on Lake. So,
But in the alleyways, then, what is being done here is consistent then with the plans that were approved?
correct.
Well, wait a minute.
Please do.
I just-
Looking at the originally approved plans, I know there's been talk about more light, but it looks like you're proposing less fixtures than what was, I'm counting 6 on each side
That is
for the alleyway, so that's now been reduced, reconfigured.
Correct.
so
You're
it's,
not providing more.
It's less light.
so it's less light, less lighting fixtures, but more light?
Yes.
Yeah, because the light fixture is different.
Okay,
The previous light fixture was more of a downlight box
right.
shielded. And the light they're proposing now, flip to,
Yeah, can we see what you're proposing?
is a, forward throw, there it is.
Yeah, so this fixture here is mounted over those exit doors and the stairwells.
And I just want to clarify, there are no exit doors in the stairwells.
Well, it's a doorway.
There are no exit doors from the building through those stairwells to the outside of the site.
Well, it's an egress door from
The plans do not show a door, they show flood openings. There are no doors within that stair tower to the outside. Can't be open.
Are there no doors?
Because for flood, you need to be able to let the water flow
Yeah,
and not
let it
be
go
able to
through.
go up the stairs.
Yeah, it appears that there are no doors in
There
that
are no doors.
whole extension there, yeah.
So do we need these extra lights if
Again,
there are
I don't
no
know
doors?
about the
Yeah,
egress
the-
around the property to get to 550.
Yeah, you don't, it does provide an alleyway to 550, so you do need lighting down those
Okay.
alleyways.
Okay, so the alleyway, so the lighting in the alleyway used to be downlit and now it's out. Do we not see that that's inconsistent with what the board usually requests? Everything
And
is
had approved.
downlit.
And had previously approved.
Right.
You previously approved a more, dark sky friendly fixture
Exactly.
than the ordinance even required back then. Now we have the ordinance, they've changed their light fixture to something that's not compliant.
Okay.
We are willing to change that fixture
Yeah,
to
we
be
can do
a,
dark sky fixtures.
to be a downlit.
Yeah, it's not-
I think it's gonna be a consistent question for you. When did you find out about this change? So every change you're telling us about, I'm gonna ask that question, somebody else is gonna ask. Before it was earlier in the year, so were you involved with this change or you found out about it after the fact?
I was not. I found out about it also earlier this year.
When you, so you're earlier this year, could you give us an approximate time?
I don't recall.
Let me ask, who makes the change? Who wanted the change? Or who asked for the change?
It was the ownership.
Excuse me?
Ownership.
Ownership. So do we know why? Why there's a change?
She's gonna testify.
Okay.
Keep it in mind, this building was being built right in the middle of COVID. He'll provide the testimony in terms of the difficulty in trying to get this building built, the circumstance that he was dealing with, trying to get materials and products to build this building at that time. So we'll have testimony with regard to that.
Okay.
When did you notify the planning board that you couldn't comply with the requirements that
Well,
were
the
in the...
application was filed in March.
I'm sorry?
The application was filed on March 11th. with this.
And we indicate that we're applying for a
Well,
variance. from-
as I recall, this application was just deemed complete in last week of September.
Yeah, but when you asked when it was filed in March.
Okay, but I'm asking, that's when he notified the planning board that these changes were being made.
Well, the proper procedure when you're looking for changes in terms of notifying the planning board is to submit an application for an amendment, which was done in March. It's actually done before that, but there are a number of issues in getting.
The procedure normally would be that you wouldn't construct something entirely different than what was approved before you got approval.
And we will provide testimony as
Okay.
to what we were dealing with in trying to get this building built in the middle of COVID.
Well, all right, but that doesn't really matter. So let me ask again about the
I
lighting.
disagree with that.
So the lighting that you're looking to, because now, I'm confused. This thing is built already and we're approving. So what's on the building now? That we were just talking about these lights? The ones that you're trying to get approved and that were not approved? Not the original approved ones?
Correct.
So when you say you'll change, it means you'll go back, you'll take them off and put the ones that on there that were approved?
Yes, we're happy to consult with city staff and
We can go back.
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't-
there were 6 that were approved. We don't think that 6 are warranted in that alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
We think that 3 lights that are brighter are sufficient. You want us to go back to the 6, we can do that.
I don't think that the question is so much, I mean, it is obviously what we approve, whatever we approved, but I think it's more that we're no longer dark sky friendly. And that decision was made.
We can make them dark
Okay.
sky friendly. We're asking for approval. Keep it in mind, these are in a narrow alleyway.
I understand, but we still.
can make, I know, but we can make them dark sky friendly. It's not an issue.
Is there fewer lights now though? Does it make it less safe if there's less light?
No, because they're stronger lights.
Well, so what the board should be asking is, what is the correct level of lighting? What is the intensity of lighting that's needed to provide safety without providing glare?
Is it 3 or 6, whatever that number is, to provide safety for the residents and everybody that's walking down that alley and be dark sky friendly.
And that way they can then achieve that with however many fixtures it takes of dark sky.
That's fair.
Compliant
Right.
with the
That's
right
fair.
color temperature. And so, I mean, I think.
But they originally told us there were 6 fixtures that were sufficient. That's how much light they needed.
Yes.
I know. This is kind of.
Yeah, so just to chime in on light levels, I mean, from what they're showing on the plan in terms of a safety perspective, it seems to be achieved in terms of sufficient light with the 3 fixtures they're proposing. Obviously, it's gonna change if they swap out.
Right. So we'd go back, I would guess that we would go back to the 6 dark sky friendly and
Well, again, I think what
assuring
they
that there's this right amount of safety for everyone that's walking through those alleys.
What they should design for is to have a uniform, average minimum of 3-foot candles across that entire path on the east side and the west side. And should probably not exceed, I don't think it should exceed 5 for this purpose.
5 fixtures?
The light level on the ground.
Oh, okay. So was it that you couldn't get the other fixtures during
Provide
COVID?
testimony.
You just won't say yes.
No, I can't because I don't provide testimony. My client
You can't
can't.
cross-examine him, but you can cross-examine
Okay.
the person that gives you the
So that way, if they need 4 fixtures,
Right.
however many fixtures using the kind
We
you
want the right kind of
prefer,
safety for the right
that way we get the
purpose.
right level of light.
Yeah, that's fair. You'd also mentioned that there was a light on Lake Ave that has changed, on Lake Ave itself. Is that true, or did I misunderstand that?
Well, there's a comment within the report as far as floodlights. That's an emergency light. It's not a
Okay, so
flood.
there was no street light modifications here?
No, the street light fixture did change.
Okay, can you show us what the street light fixture will look like?
It's this fixture right here.
Okay, that fixture doesn't look like anything else on Lake Avenue. It looks like nothing like anything else on Lake Avenue.
Well, honestly, on Lake Avenue, it's mostly Cobra heads on light pole, on the
Right.
utility poles, yeah.
Right.
We don't really have light street
Yes,
lights
you
like we
do.
do on Cookman or,
You do. Right along, you do in front of the beer garden, you do in front of the distillery.
right, but in front of the beer garden and distillery, those are outside the right of way, those are in your sidewalk.
But I'm just saying, you have lights here
Right,
that are similar to what you have.
but are they yours, or are they public street lights? Because they're behind the right of way.
Mr. Sackman can provide
Why
testimony.
don't you consult them first and come back with an answer? Because if we swear them in, I got 2 witnesses on the road, cross-examination is gonna turn into a circus.
There's lights on the- I don't look at that either. Can't see those. Right, that's on, Grand and on Emory.
Mr. Sackman will provide testimony that those light fixtures in front of the beer garden are in the right of way.
So are they the cities, or are they owned by whoever owns the building?
They're in the right of way. I'll find out through testimony and we'll
Okay.
clarify as to who installed them, but they're in the city right of way.
They also don't look like that.
Right.
I'm
So,
looking right at them.
They're a lot closer, these are a lot closer to what we're seeing there than what you have in the streets in
Donna, do we not mandate uniformity in certain lights on certain places? The city?
Well, listen, we're proposing, let me provide
No,
testimony.
I'm just asking.
Let me just finish. We're gonna propose this. These have not been installed yet. This is what we're proposing. We think it's a much better design to keep consistency along Lake Ave, as opposed to putting those red lights that you have, that you see on Emory and that you see on Cookman. So why don't we provide the testimony with regard to that, and then the board can make
Yeah, I agree, there
a
should be continuity.
100%. Okay. Why don't you describe these lights?
Sure. So the light that we're proposing is I believe it's dark sky friendly. It is approximately well, the pole is approximately 10 feet in height, and the fixture is approximately 22 inches in height from base to top. It's black and provides LED light. The
You know what the temperature is?
temperature is 3,000 Kelvin, as are the other lights that were proposed. That is not a change from prior approval. All the fixtures in the prior approval were proposed to be 3,000 Kelvin. I understand that, given the new lighting ordinance, that the maximum temperature required under that ordinance is 2,700 Kelvin.
Is it possible to get this fixture into 2,700 Kelvin?
From this manufacturer, I do not know off the top of my head. But I understand that there were some difficulties also in procurement, which I assume Mr. Sackman will also testify to.
Well, are these there already?
No, they're not, so.
In terms of any additional lighting or other lighting, I already mentioned that there is a fixture over the door where there was a comment in the CCH report about a floodlight. That's an emergency light, am I correct?
Correct. So in front of the main entrance, there's a floodlight, which is not on normally. It's only on in emergency situations.
That's life safety, am I correct?
Yes, and then I believe there's also a floodlight in the rear of the property. Let's bring it up on the plan. I believe there's one over this door here in the rear. Same thing, floodlight for emergency purposes.
Mr. Collins, when did you first notify the planning board that the fixtures were not available and that they needed to be changed?
I did not notify the planning board.
Mr. Henry, there's no process for an engineer to notify a board when they change things. The process is that you file an application for an amended approval, which we did.
And you're telling me that you didn't learn that the fixtures weren't available until March when you submitted the amended application? Is that what the testimony is?
We'll provide testimony from Mr. Sackman in terms of what products were available or weren't, and then the application that was made, and when the application was made to try to get before the planning board. But you gotta understand though, the process is, and you don't have an engineer just write to a
If I
board.
may, Jim,
Yeah.
you can ask those questions, but I don't think this is the person who has the questions.
Okay.
Mr. Sackman is going to have to answer those questions. You have every right to ask them, and you're entitled to answers, and if it's going to be caught up, it's going to be.
Okay.
So, I believe that covers everything. From my end.
What about the depressions that you're making in the slab, the stackers? So how deep are the depressions?
The architect can provide testimony as to the exact.
This might also be your architect, but digging down like that, does that trigger anything like DUI?
Mr. Sackman is going to address it. Yeah, you're talking about the FHA permit.
Maybe, I don't know, I was just thinking.
Is there gonna be a separate person to testify about landscape?
Yes.
And who will be testifying about the size of the parking spaces and the length of the parking spaces, all that? The architect? Okay.
And I believe I already touched on some of that as it relates to.
Yeah, but it just
compliance with
wasn't,
standards.
there just wasn't any detail. That's what I mean, because we're interested in the detail. Yeah,
Yes, the architect can
Okay.
zoom in on that and show you exactly where those.
That'd be great.
those happen. Can we go through the letter?
Yeah.
Excuse me, before you get into that, initially when you testified, Mr. Collins, you said that some of the changes would deal with grading and drainage. Would you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. As I mentioned, we added 2 small inlets, one at the rear for this 550 Cookman walkway, and then one on the reconfigured ramp seating area in the front. And then as I mentioned, the finished floor elevation in the garage increased by 1 foot.
Okay.
That's the extent of those changes.
And the additional inlets are attached to the drainage facilities that were approved initially?
Correct.
Aside from that, has any of the drainage changed that was
No.
proposed?
None of that has changed.
What I want to do, I want to go first through the insight report. We've marked that as B4 for identification. That's a report that's dated October 27, 2022. Mr. Collins, you're familiar with this, am I correct?
Yes.
What I want to do is start on page 207 of this report. Number 1, testimony with regard to mechanical equipment. Mechanical equipment is up on the roof, am I correct? For the air conditioners?
I believe so, but I think
Well,
the
you'll have the architect.
should testify.
I just want to touch on it. Signage, again, we're going to have the architect handle that, am I correct? The raised certification block architectural plans, again, for the architect, am I correct?
Yes.
Number 4 is for the architect, am I correct? Emergency vehicles, number 5. Similar to the approval that had been obtained, the emergency vehicles would go right onto Lake Ave, am I correct?
Correct.
You don't have emergency vehicles that access into a garage, am I correct?
Correct.
And that hasn't changed, am I correct?
Correct.
Can we back up for 1 second?
Sure.
Number 1, you mentioned the mechanicals on the roof. You talked about the transformer in the front.
Mhm.
Are there any other utility meters that changed from the original approval? I guess a better question. Where are the gas and electric meters? Inside?
I believe the gas, there's one, the architect can confirm, but I believe there's only one gas meter on this side of the building, on the east side.
Okay.
Whereas I believe there was, in the prior approval, there was a whole bank of gas meters, but that's no longer there.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about, what Doug just mentioned was about the roof plan. I'm assuming somebody else is going to talk about the roof.
The architect.
Okay, the architect. You got a lot to do, Mr. Architect. Go ahead. Next.
Number 6, the lighting. A was the size of the building, as we addressed that, am I correct?
Yes.
A different street light compared to the original approval, we addressed that, am I correct?
Yes.
B, light fixture B is not full cutoff. All right, why don't we identify fixture B, so we know what we're talking about.
Is this one here?
And that's the one that we talked about, am I correct?
Yes, that's the one mounted above those doorways
Yeah,
on either side.
and we're willing to do that as a cutoff to make it dark sky friendly, am I correct?
Yes.
C, an exception required to permit 3,000 Kelvin light temperature as opposed to 2,700 as required. To the extent that we can comply to 2,700, that's what we will do, am I correct?
Yes.
To the extent that we can't, we're requesting a waiver, am I correct?
Correct. And as I mentioned, the 3,000 Kelvin fixtures were previously approved. All of those fixtures were that light.
So are you gonna have multiple light temperatures on the same building?
If we can get all of the fixtures to be 2,700, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll stick with all the 3,000.
But they're all dark sky friendly.
They will be.
Exception with regard to any light levels exceeding 0.1 foot candles at the property lines. You've addressed the different areas with that?
Yes, and to reiterate what Mr. Karras said, a lot of those exceedances are really due to the nature of the property and, you know, the fact that it's basically surrounded by alleyways on all sides where you need adequate lighting levels for safety.
But you still need the exception.
Correct.
Okay.
E indicates it appears the applicant is relying upon the lighting on the 550 Cookman Ave building for the rear alley between the two buildings. Note this was also the case in the previous approval in lot 4.01 was part of the original site plan / subdivision application. Is that correct?
Yes.
D is the flood line. You provided testimony with regard to that. Am I correct?
Yes.
There's a comment G recommending an additional light fixture above the garage entrance as the proposed driveway does not appear to be adequately lit. Any objection to that?
No, we can study that, and when we reassess the other fixtures, we'll make sure that driveway entrance has adequate light.
And anything that would be added would be dark sky friendly, am I correct?
Correct.
Exceptions required going to H to permit a minimum to maximum illumination ratio of 19.67, whereas a max of 10 is required. Can you address that?
Sure, I think that has to do with the reduction in lights, but again, when we change those fixtures to dark sky friendly, I would imagine that ratio will be brought more into compliance.
To the extent it's not a design exception is being requested, am I correct?
Yes.
I, an exception to permit uniformity ratio of 6.61 where a max ratio of 4 is required. Can you address that?
It's the same situation as H.
Any mezzanine levels of lighting?
I think that's a better question for the architect.
Very good. Recyclable materials, I'll have Mr. Sackman address that. Total parking, am I correct that 88 parking spaces were approved and 113 with the stackers is being sought in this application, am I correct?
That's correct.
So you can increase the available parking for the site, additional 25 parking spaces, am I correct?
Correct.
The size of the stall is 9, that'll be addressed by the architect, am I correct? As is the width, number 10, am I correct?
Yes.
Aisle width, number 11, will be addressed by the architect also, am I correct? 12, minimum, maximum two-way operation driveway dimensions for 10-family structures and over 20 to 30 feet respectively. Here you have 21.2 and 10. Can you address that? And has that been changed?
So all driveway and curb cut widths are unchanged from the prior approval. I think what this is referring to is this curb cut here, which provides access to the trash room. That's not a vehicular entrance into the garage. So I don't believe that this would be classified as a driveway, whereas this is the main driveway to access the garage. So the dimensions, as I mentioned, aren't any different from what was previously proposed and approved. And, you know, it's needed, the one, at least on the front of the trash room here is needed to, you know, provide adequate access to the trash room for.
And again, that's consistent with the prior plan that had been approved, am I
Yes,
correct?
yeah, for trash loading.
I'm sorry, is that, Doug, are you in agreement with that?
So maybe what's happened here is, I mean, I agree, it really hasn't changed from the original approval, but it doesn't seem as though an exception was granted for the 10-foot wide driveway in the original approval. Is that what you're saying? Because it wasn't meant for vehicular access?
Correct.
Although the plans that reflect these two driveways was approved.
Yes.
But because it doesn't provide vehicular access into the building, you didn't need the exception.
Okay. But is that still to be used by, say, a refuse vehicle?
Correct.
So what's it do? It just backs up to the,
Same as what had been approved before.
so it's not a driveway?
I mean, that would be consistent with the original approval. I mean, it hasn't changed and an exception was not granted with the original approval, so it seems to make sense.
13, minimum distance between driveway cuts is 50 feet. This is 19.5. Again, that hasn't changed. Am I correct?
That's the same.
Continuing on, operational testimony for the garage number 15, Mr. Sack.
You skipped 14.
I apologize, site triangles.
Sure, I have an exhibit showing the site triangles. I don't know if you want to mark this into the record.
Why don't we mark this as A3 for identification?
I can provide a hard copy if you like. Yeah.
So was this provided to our planner, the city planner, who provides us with all of our copies of this? Because I don't remember seeing this.
No, this is a new,
So this is a new.
This is new. This is-
Okay, so that has to be flowed right into the process now, so that now you have it, and it goes to our planning department. Because this is new.
And those can be added to the site plan set?
yes,
Yes.
we can do that.
Okay.
So can you tell us what this shows us? Because we've
Sure.
never seen this before.
Sure. So the site triangles are to show that a vehicle exiting the garage at this point from a standard driver height has adequate sight distance to see an oncoming car making movements in both directions. So if they are turning left, they would need to see a vehicle approaching from this direction. And it's really to make sure that we don't have any obstructions within this, such as walls or fences or high shrubs that would impede the driver's view of those oncoming vehicles. So based on this analysis, it appears that there is adequate sight distance in both directions. I will add that if there are cars parked here that are blocking the driver's view, there is space here for the driver to pull out and see beyond those vehicles.
Now, has that configuration changed from the original approval?
It has not.
What's those distances?
So based on the stopping sight distances for vehicles on Lake Avenue, it's approximately 150 feet on this lane, on each leg. And that really has to do with the distance that a car can safely stop at the posted travel speed, so that if there is a potential conflict, that the driver can stop in an adequate amount of time.
When a car comes out of the driveway, is there like a warning system, a light for pedestrians or anything like that?
We do not have a pedestrian warning system for anything.
And what is the maximum height of the parked cars in those site triangles?
How,
Could be an SUV. Big.
Yeah, it really depends on the vehicle.
Well, what is it? Because if you're coming out of that garage and you want to take a look up the street to the east, and your view is blocked by the cars in that site triangle,
but that's coming out of any driveway anywhere within the city, it doesn't change.
and in a site triangle, nothing is supposed to, no obstruction is supposed to be placed within it.
That is not correct, not in terms of vehicle, that is not correct. You would never be able to have a driveway going onto a piece of property within the city of Asbury Park. You'd never have on-site parking if that was the case.
And as I mentioned, you could just pull out farther because there's a space here that is not striped for parking. So you could pull out here and then get a better view of oncoming vehicles.
So is my understanding of the site triangles is that you can't have permanent structures within this?
Correct,
Yes, that's correct. And there is no permanent structure in there, am I correct?
correct.
And there's no shrubbery or trees or
There
anything?
is there's a light pole here and a street tree, but those are minor.
So now that you've brought it up, I see 4 light poles. Are we proposing 4 lights that, on there? Like in that design that you showed us not that long ago? I thought there was only 1.
What was the original approval for those light posts?
The original approval had 4 light posts along Lake Avenue.
Okay.
Streetlights.
Okay.
Those locations are not changed.
All right, so we are going to have 4.
Correct.
But didn't you mention that something changed?
The type of the fixture
So
itself.
all 4 will change?
Yes, yes.
But that's a question that somebody can answer later. They're in the city right away.
Yes.
Who maintains them? Because when you pick a certain fixture, like the ones you said on Emery and the ones that go on the 500 block of Cookman, the orange ones, they were bought and the company went out of business next year, so you can't find pieces from them. So if you buy lights and you put them on the city and the city can't find replacement pieces, I mean, I think that should be, as much as they're in the city right away, it should be your obligation to maintain them.
Yeah, we'll have Mr.
Okay.
Sackman's testimony.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you,
Okay, thank you,
but we'll provide testimony.
thank you.
On number 15, the operational testimony for the garage, I'll have Mr. Sackman provide testimony. Similarly with number 16, stormwater, you addressed that, you've already addressed that, number 17, am I correct?
Yes.
Number 18, with regard to the FEMA preliminary and effective firm act, that's the FHA permit, I'll have Mr. Sackman also provide testimony with regard to that, and conversations that he's had. Streetscape improvements, street trees, whatnot. Has anything, aside from what you've testified in terms of the frontage of the building and the streetscape, has anything, I'm not getting into the landscaping yet, bike racks, benches, stuff like that, has anything changed from the original plans?
The bike racks are the same as the original approval, and in the locations, as previously proposed and approved. I don't believe there were any benches or trash receptacles proposed. And then I believe the landscape architect can testify about the street trees themselves.
20 has to do with the exterior mechanical equipment. It makes reference to transforming the electrical equipment. You've already testified about that, correct?
Yes, and this comment addresses possible screening, which is something I wanted to address. We understand that it would be ideal to screen that equipment, but JCP&L's requirements, they have certain requirements for clear distances on all sides of the equipment. So we cannot place any kind of high shrubs or fences or walls or anything like that to screen that equipment in the space that we have there.
'21, as part of the prior approval, the applicant received mayor and council approval for construction of the original planning board approved stairs and ADA ramp. You've already testified to the ROW, am I correct?
Yes.
TWA, has anything changed with regard to that?
Hold on, let's go back to 21. So over here it says that the city, that the stairs were all approved by this, an ADA ramp were approved in the city right of way, but over here, but then later it says here that the applicant has since constructed, all the things you constructed within the right of way, which was either not part of the original mayor and council approval or a different size.
Yeah, we have to go, based upon these plans, we have to go back before the mayor and council for that. That is correct.
If the board approves it.
If the board approves it, that is correct.
So you've got the easement for the original ramp and stairs.
It was approved by this board. It was drafted and sent to the city. I don't know what happened to it when I sent it to the city.
Well, it says you received mayor and council approval.
I don't know if it was recorded, so I don't know if the city had it recorded.
You said yes.
Yes. Yes, there is an ordinance that did approve it.
Okay.
TWA, anything changed with regards to that?
No.
And 23 has to do with an 8-foot wooden fence on the original plans. Can you address that?
Yeah, I think is that the lattice fence that kind of screens their mechanical equipment on the one side? It's still there.
There was a fence shown as to remain on the original approved plans
Okay.
That's one by
Yes.
Mr.
by Moonstruck.
Yeah,
And that has since been taken down.
It's been taken down.
Yeah, that'll go, it's back up, it's back up. It's taken down. during-
It said, are you referring to the 8-foot wood fence utility enclosure to remain?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that's still there.
It's back up.
It was down, now it's back up.
During the course of construction, it came down, but now it's back up. And I believe that is all the comments with regard to before the insight report.
And can we just, like, one thing that you'd mentioned about the gas meters? Is there was something different that changed with the gas meters, correct? Because I didn't see anything on here about gas meters.
Yeah, it sounds like the original approved plans had a bank of meters on the side of the building. And that has been reduced to either a regulator or a single meter, and then it feeds inside.
I would think a regulator was utilized and then the meters go inside.
So do we know where the meters are? Do we have a new plan for where the meters are? Inside?
The architect can testify, so.
Okay.
So one other thing, number 16, would you mind just elaborating on how the plans either comply or don't comply with the ADA parking?
Yeah, the architect will testify to that.
Okay.
And show you where that loading space is.
Going through what's been marked as B3 for identification, which is a CCH report that's dated November 3rd, 2022.
Actually, before
Sure.
we jump into the report, I just want to go back about the lighting. So I want to better understand the site layout, because I may have tripped over something I didn't realize before. Okay, so we have the building on the lot, which was created by subdivision.
Correct.
And actually, if you go to like sheet 2 or whatever, it just has the basic layout.
Oh,
Okay. So there's concrete sidewalk on the east and west sides of the building that kind of go front to back, except for where those stair towers stick out.
Correct.
right.
And so on the west side, you have the beer garden building, right?
Yes.
And where is that in relationship to the property line, more or less?
That building appears to be just about on the line.
Okay. And then on the east side, we have Moonstruck, which is, looks like it's a little farther away from the property line, but pretty close to the property
Yeah,
line.
you can see it on what we marked as A2, side of the Moonstruck over here. There's that.
There's that little bit of sidewalk
Yeah.
that goes
It
to
may be a
that.
little bit green.
But where the stair towers juts out, is there just a little tiny, there's just like a little elbow room between the stair tower and the Moonstruck building. Can you zoom in on that? Yeah, that's perfect. So then you've got a fence that runs along the property line from the stair tower to the front of the building.
This fence,
With a gate at the property line,
This
right?
fence.
Yeah, yeah,
With the gate.
okay. And we've said there's no door in that stair tower. So what are we lighting this space up for?
There is a door back here, which was added to the bike storage room.
Okay, but I can't get from there to Lake on your property. Correct?
This is all within the property.
Right, but if I walk down the sidewalk and then I hit the building,
Oh, this is an open passageway here. Through here.
A doorway with no door.
it's a door with no door.
Correct.
So what, the tower's over, the stairs is over at the tower? So on the grade, it's
It's flat,
like
it's
a-
just, it's
you
like a
just
little
walk through
corridor,
it,
you
it's
walk
like a
straight through
hallway.
it. Yes,
where to go. So the stair tower's above you?
correct.
Why is?
So there's no door, no gate. It's just an archway or, yeah, opening, okay.
Correct, yeah.
So you can go through there, okay, and it's the same on the other side?
Yes.
Why is it, but that's not how it looks like it's drawn. I mean, it
Yeah,
looks like a
no,
wall.
it's confusing how.
It's drawn as a wall.
What you're saying is this portion of the stair that we're seeing is above,
Correct.
above the head of the person passing underneath it.
Right.
Okay, so this should be dotted to show
Yeah,
above,
so-
not what's on the ground, what's on.
And you can see right here, there's a break in that wall
Oh, jeez.
patch. Yeah.
What are we zoomed 1,000 here?
What's the thick black line?
That's just the overall, bird's eye view outline of the building.
So the, zoom back
Yeah.
out a little bit, there's a note about the, okay, that's the flood zone. Maybe it's on the other sheet. Okay.
It should just actually be, be better if it said something on there that.
It does,
grade,
it says
yeah,
passageway.
grade, there's a passage.
It says-
It says passageway.
Okay. All right, so
Is that a,
So there's lighting on either side, there's lighting on this path, and it goes to the back. Okay. And this is access from the back of the building and for 550?
Correct.
So what is that tower? Is it
But
just
there's no-
cantilevered over the?
but there's no
over the
easement.
space?
Well, there's a wall on the,
On the
Out
front
the
side,
side,
on
yeah.
the other property side?
Okay.
All right, before we go to the CCH report, I'd like to ask for a 5-minute break,
second?
if that's okay?
Yep, second the motion.
Okay, we're seconding the motion.
Okay.
Aye.
Any further?
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody's back.
Welcome back. I will take roll call now. Mayor John Moore.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
James Bonanno.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Daniel Shinameo.
Here.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. Okay.
Why don't we take care of 6:14? We're already at 10 to 9. I don't think we're going to finish up with this.
So-
Or get to 6:14. Why don't we kick that one off?
We have to cross-examine.
Right, we have to have us cross-examine and,
No, I'm just talking about 6:14. I have witnesses here.
okay,
Oh, you want to move
I
614
wanna
and
move that.
continue with this?
okay,
You want to carry it?
I'd like to.
okay.
Anyone here on that
Just a double
application,
to carry.
614?
If you want to carry this one, you can carry.
We need a date, time, and place.
What's the next,
We are looking at December 5th or December 12th,
December 5th, 7
7
p.m.
7 p.m.
Yeah, it must be because holidays, right?
okay, I'll make a motion to carry 614 Cookman to December 5th, 7 PM without further notice?
So moved.
So long as Mr. Karas.
As Mr. Karas is okay.
Any time before, so we have to vote on that?
That is correct, I consent.
Thank you. So we've got a motion, made by Mr. Shannon.
I'll second.
Okay. Mayor John Moore,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton,
Yes.
James Bonanno,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo,
Yes.
Chairwoman Barbara Korzak.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay.
This is the date,
We're here on our application.
December 7th.
Thanks, the 5th.
No, 7th.
You did say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute, December 5th. Okay,
Yep.
December 5.
Okay.
Is that,
Okay,
that's okay?
yep. Okay, Mr. Karas?
Thank you. Every time I'm about to start speaking, Trent.
Yes.
I don't know why that's happening. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through what's been marked as B3 for identification. It's the CCH report that's dated, or it's updated November 3rd of 2022. Most of what we have in here concerns architectural testimonies. I'm going to go right to the lighting on page 11 of 14.
Time out for a second. I sent you an email saying, are there any new reports besides the September 16th? And you said no.
I'm sorry. For 614.
For 6/14, yeah.
Yeah, this is, we're at 5, we're on 5:45.
We're going back to 5:45?
We
Yes.
are. We just carried the other one and we're going to
Oh,
5:45.
okay, I thought we were going to 6:14.
No. Okay.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry.
All right.
Donna.
Only a minor panic attack.
And what are you referring to?
We're going
So
back to
so the lighting section, which is section 7, which I think we're gonna basically,
Oh, we okay with?
yeah,
gone
everything
through it?
we've talked about, is pretty much the same as what was in Doug's letter,
If that's the case, then
except for whatever needs to be addressed by the architect or Mr. Sackman that was, alluded to before.
all right, then I don't think there's any additional testimony with regard to B3.
Not for the engineer.
Okay. Does does that conclude
Our engineering.
our engineering? Okay. Does the board have any other questions to the engineer?
Just why, so what is the reason for to extend that front porch out right away? I understand that 80 right, I get all that. And why is that now extending farther out into the right of way?
I think that Mr. Sackman and the landscape architect would be better suited to provide that testimony.
All right. Any other questions from board members to the witness? Any other questions from the city professionals, for the planning board professionals, for questions to the witness? No? Okay. Any public that would like to ask questions for the testimony that was provided by our engineer? Okay. Next witness.
Good.
Want to use this or
Well, if you have them up there, you have the architecturals up there.
yeah, just this one?
Oh.
You can use that.
All right, so now this is our architect? Yes?
Okay. What's this word?
Oh, I'm sorry, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear the testimony you have given this matter, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it, please.
David Businelli, D-A-V-I-D, B-U-S as in Sam, I-N-E-L-L-I.
Mr. Businelli, can you please give the board the benefit of your qualification?
Yes, I've been licensed and registered architect in the state of New Jersey since the year 2000. I
I have provided testimony to boards in many locations in the state.
And recently you provided testimony before this board as an architect, am I correct?
That is correct.
And you're currently licensed?
I am.
Yeah, that would be on September 22nd.
That's right.
We already qualified.
Great. Just a reminder that we have until 10 o'clock, so speak as much as you like, until 10.
Mr. Bucinelli, you're familiar with these plans, am I correct?
Yes.
And the plans were prepared, however, by JCA Group, Jose Carvalho, am I correct?
That's right.
And you assisted, though, in the revisions to these plans, am I correct?
That's right.
And you're fully familiar with the plans?
Yes.
And you're qualified here to testify based upon your knowledge of these plans and the revisions of the plans, am I correct?
Yes.
What I want to do is go through the most recent revised plans with regard to this building. Sure. We're going to mark that, I believe we're up to A4 for identification.
A3 with the site plan.
Correct. What is the most recent revision date of the plans that you have?
That would be, I'm looking, so it's.
When we go to page 3.
Actually, today, November 7th, 22.
There's a dimension that was just added to it today, am I correct?
That's correct.
Just so we're clear, what dimension is that?
That will be the 14-foot width of the accessible drop-off area in the garage.
Okay, so that was the only addition that was added, just for the board's application for today, am I
Yes.
correct?
What was the date of the prior revision? Okay.
This plan shows a revision date of 10/19/17.
Those were the addition of the flood.
Yes, that's
But if we go to,
All right, so wait a minute. So the version of my plans that was supplied has a revision date of 10/18/22. And they do not show a handicap drop-off space. So if you've added a dimension, you may have also added that whole concept. Because my sheet 2 does not show what your sheet 2 shows in that space.
my sheet 2 has 1018.
right. This sheet doesn't have the 10/18.
Okay.
So your ground floor plan. Yeah, it doesn't have that designation, doesn't have that notation, doesn't have that dimension.
This is what we.
So that was done for tonight's meeting.
That is correct. But
For that sheet.
The previous was that I have is 1018. And then that one additional dimension was added with today's date, am I correct?
Yes.
And it was updated to today's date from 1018.
Yes.
But do our professionals agree? Do they agree that the report that they created was based on 10/18?
Right, but
Do-
it's not,
do we
the
have
only
agreement?
change is not the dimension. The change is that entire handicap parking space.
Understood,
The
but,
designation, the dimension, the drop.
but based on the report that you created, that you submitted, the updated report, November 3rd, did it include what you're questioning?
So the last revised date of the plans we reviewed
Yes.
is October 18th.
Okay, so those are the same, okay, so that's
So as
good.
long as the only change for November 7th is this handicap thing, that's great, but he's already testified that the only change he made was to add a dimension, and that was not the only change.
Okay, so, all right, we need to know what happened. Because as of 10/18, more changes were made than just what you specified. So we need to understand what happened.
Give us the extent of the changes, please.
Well, are we limited to the handicap parking area, or we're talking about this entire plan?
We're talking about whatever changes you made from 10/18 to today.
Well, that would be the handicap drop-off area, as far as I know.
There it is.
As far as I know, that was the only change between 10/18 and now.
Did you make those changes?
I made the change.
So then it's not as far as you know. You either know or you don't know.
Well, and I'm only saying that between myself and Jose's office, I don't know where the disconnect came on the date on the plan. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a dating thing.
And that's all right.
On the
Okay, no, I
plan,
just
so,
want to make sure I'm on the same page as you are.
You know, we're on the same.
Right. So we firmly believe that these are the plans that were from 10/18/2022,
Yes,
even though it doesn't say that that's true.
yes.
Except with regard
Except for the
to that
handicap, the
One
ADA,
dimension that's on there, that is correct.
so we're all comfortable with that here?
Can I just ask another separate quick question? This is an administrative thing. What is the name of this file? I cannot find this particular file. Like the name, it's just in my files unless I close it.
Let's see.
2014-58.
Because the cover page that you showed, I just don't have.
So the 1018 set was not in the original download? Because that was 1014?
Right, so what we were able to, we don't have.
Mine's called 545 Lake JCA Planning Board 1018-22.
Yeah, they may have been sent to us directly because I had made a remark about some of the labels being obscured. So
So possibly never made it to
they
us?
were directed to make sure they were submitted, but we did receive digital copies directly.
All right, so the city does not have.
May not have the 1018
These
version.
copies, and the board does not have these
Oh.
copies.
I don't have my computer here to see what I sent.
Because we do have,
David, did your office submit?
No.
Yours?
Normally would go to me,
And then you would
and then I would submit, but I don't have my computer here to show you emails of what was submitted. Normally I do a hard copy and then I do a
I, Jennifer, I do not see it in.
all right, so
Let's check with our secretary. She would know.
she does not have it.
I
Our
don't see
secretary
it in
doesn't seem to have it.
files, So somehow might have gotten missed getting to us.
And I don't know what was sent to Michelle, so.
Yeah, we have, in our download, there were 2 AutoCAD sheets. One was the roof plan, one was the elevation plan. And on the elevation plan, there were labels that were obscured by the clouding to indicate this is a revision. So we contacted JCA directly and said, hey, if you turn this layer transparent, then at least we'd be able to see your labels and be able to tell if you're conforming or not. And so they did submit that directly to us, but, they're obviously directed to make any submissions to the town officially, so they're on file. So if you don't have
All
architectural
right,
plans.
we don't have, what we have no title box, anything on ours. This is what we received.
That's the AutoCAD
We
drawing.
have nothing that tells us dates or anything.
Yeah, that was in the original download.
So is this what we should
So
do?
on October 25th, they were submitted to Donna and Michelle Alonso.
October 25th.
So you have, so,
So aside from that November 7th handicap drop-off thing, I have these
all right, so your
plans.
report was
And my
accurate,
report is
which is
based on
good,
those.
and then you're okay, because you probably got it all.
I would read the same thing.
You'd be reading the same thing. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Can I just ask, what is your role in these plans? You're not the architect of record?
No, I'm a separate firm. I was brought in to assist with this process, in consultation with Jose Carvalho.
With the original plans or just the amendment?
That's just the email.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's his responsibility. He's the witness. He's accepting responsibility.
Well, I didn't sign and seal it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm doing the testimony.
Yeah, but you're responsible. If you're gonna testify, you're gonna back up those plans. You can't say it's on Jose.
Oh, no, I'm saying, I didn't sign and seal the drawings, but I'm offering the testimony.
Yes, okay.
But you're
You're
responsible.
responsible. Yeah. Any representations you make based on these plans,
Sure.
it's your responsibility as a licensed architect.
Okay.
Okay,
As long as
Got
we're
it. Yeah, no, okay.
all right, let's go.
Could you quickly just scroll to the first page of this, just to see what the cover sheet was? I'm gonna keep looking, but, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so these plans then that we're looking at have been marked as A4 for identification. David, can you please go through the plans and the revisions that were made to these plans, comparing them to the original approvals? Limits.
Sure. Well, on the ground floor plan, we have the indication of the parking stackers. So, I know there's a lot of discussion.
Excuse me, before you get too far, you say on the ground floor plan,
First floor.
we have a set of plans here with no markings on them as to what they are. So will you be a little more specific? There's no title box.
It says first floor.
Is that this? They don't have what.
We don't have these, right?
They have.
We don't have
A virtual blank sheet of paper with just the floor plan on it.
Yes, we have the parking floor plan.
Is
We
that
have
the
that.
first
Is
floor
that the
plan?
first-
Yes, that's it, yes.
Okay. All right, let's go.
So we show the location of the various stackers, 3-car and 2-car stackers, as well as the surface parking. We have shown the revision to the lobby and the staircase, and it was essentially the porch and the ramp. And those are the major changes.
Well, again, the change, because there was testimony before that said you would handle it, about that you changed the lobby or the ADA access.
Yeah.
So did the gym, so what we're looking at now, is the gym change, is that different than the original?
Am I correct? The gym was added where it was not in the original. Over there, you had a secondary entrance for the handicap. Am I correct?
That's correct.
All right, so the gym was at.
That's been changed, so you have a gym there, but you have a singular access point, double doors, both for the handicap ramp and also the stairs that are leading up to that door. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And that leads into the lobby. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So there's no gym at all before?
No. Right, so
Okay.
the lobby was revised, the male alcove is now behind the gym, and the laundry room is now next to the elevator, which gives access to the garage. Okay.
And you indicate there that on that first floor, that's where your stackers are, am I correct?
That is correct.
Why don't we go through the dimensions, and the aisle width, those dimensions, and also the dimensions for the parking for the cars?
So the aisle width is indicated as 20 foot, 8.5 inches, column face to column face. All right, column face of, from this column here to this area here, where the other parking spaces are. The stackers themselves, the 3-car stackers, have, and this is dimensions coming from the actual equipment, of 7'7" wide and by 18 foot 6.5 inches long. The 2-car stackers are 7 foot 7.5 inches wide and 18 foot 10.75 inches long.
So is that different from what was approved? And if it is, can you let me know what the difference is?
When we compare, the size of the stackers are different, am I correct?
Yes.
All right, and because of that, the aisle width is a little narrower, am I correct?
Well, the aisle width is measured to the column face. So the stackers don't impede on that. So those wells are behind the structural column. So the columns did not shift in position.
The original question was, what's the difference in the dimensions of the space?
Well, I'm giving you the dimension of the space as is. So what-
Right, but I need to know-
If I could look at the plans approved.
The stackers.
Right, because remember, you're asking us to approve something that changed that we never approved. So we need to know the difference and what the impact of that is.
I can't.
Don't ask Andy to do this. Andy, you want to try?
My phone has a magnifier.
You want to try?
It has this really neat app with magnifying glass.
Yeah.
It works really well.
I can't see it. I literally don't see it.
I have the approved plan.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I mean, is it possible for you just to tell us why it changed? And what the impact is of the change and?
Yeah, why it changed, I'll have Mr. Sack in terms of the equipment that he was able to get.
Yeah, that'll probably be another day, but okay. All right. So tell us what changed. Like, which ones were twos, which ones are threes, how many threes are there now? What impact did that have? Did you have to dig anywhere to make more room? What
They
happened?
were previously approved, they were all twos.
Everything was a two,
Everything was a two,
okay?
right on the slab.
Okay,
What changed was they were.
Except for the handicap spaces.
Except for the handicap spaces. So now there are 3 car stackers and a well was done
okay,
below the slab, about
Okay.
6 feet, to accommodate the 3-car stack.
okay,
And that was done to be able to increase the amount of parking that you can do on site
Right.
by obtaining 3-car stackers as opposed to 2, am I correct?
That's right,
Try to provide as much parking
Right.
as possible on the site, am I correct?
that's right.
So, okay, so now for every place that there used to be a two, now there's a three, and you dug 6 feet under all of that,
Right.
unapproved. Right? Okay, unapproved. All right, so we're there now, and so do we have someplace that shows that elevation, the floor elevation now, of the modifications of the 6 feet that you just dug down?
How thick was the slab that you dug through?
Well, we didn't dig through. The slab's 6 inches.
Okay,
6-inch slab.
so
So, we have the section?
you cut a hole in the slab?
This is concerned.
So I just want to clarify, not every double stack is proposed to convert to a 3.
Okay.
Some of them will remain 2.
I see the ones that are gonna remain twos because they're like icons. Okay. Right, not all of them, you're right, you're right.
Can we do this? Can I swear Mr. Sack in, because I think it'll be a lot easier to provide his testimony alongside with this, provide clarification as to what was done with the stackers. It's gonna be a lot easier to provide testimony.
I mean, he's the architect, and he's responsible for the plan, so he should be able to tell us.
No, but in
No, we
terms
got
of-
it.
Oh, hold on, let me finish. I mean, he's the architect and he's responsible for the plans. He should be able to tell us, how they dug through, how they constructed, not the owner, but the architect should tell us.
We have it.
So, is it just that you cut a hole in the slab and you dug down in the ground?
The plans were submitted to the building department before. Just let me finish before you interrupt me. the building department approved going into a pit.
I'm on
just
the planning
wanted to-
board, but I'm allowed to ask the question.
I
just
know,
wanna
but when you keep saying, you know, you just went through the slab, I just want it to be clear.
Andy, please, I
Listen.
don't wanna go into that, because if I do, it's gonna get nasty about what was done, what was approved, and what was submitted to be seen by the construction official. We don't wanna go there, none of us do. All right, so let's not go there. I get it, I understand that's what happened, but if you open that door, then I'm obligated to go through it.
I just
So
want to
let's stick
understand,
with what Dan
you just asked, you're asking us to approve a change, and I just want to understand what you did, what the change was, and how it was done.
So, a pit was done as is indicated on the plan. So during excavation, this comes out, this foundation wall is poured, the footing is poured, this lower slab is poured, and similarly on the exterior wall. So that gives enough room to stack these cars, you know, in three.
Okay.
Yeah. Below the slab.
So how many pits were dug now?
There's, let me get back to that.
Is it one continuous,
Where the three.
like trench?
Everywhere that there's a 3-car stacker, it is absolutely one.
One
long
big.
pit. Yeah,
So-
one long pit.
So how many
And then
long
back
pits?
up.
How many long pits?
I'm going to that plan.
And how many spaces?
So we have these three, this section here is 3. And let's move it over. This side is 3. 4, I mean, is a 3-car stacker.
Right, but it looks like there are 4 of them.
4 here, and there's 5 on top.
Right, so I mean, it's a 3-car stacker. This area here, this is a 2-car stackers. This here, 2-car stackers. This here, 3-car stackers, so that's 3 pits,
Is it 3 separate pits or one continuous pit?
3 separate. Right. And then we have, that along this side, on either side of the aisle, is pits for the 3-car stackers.
So is it, so like from the, like on the left side of where you're pointing?
Yes.
Is that, so that's a 3, down to the bottom, that's a 3. So is that one continuous pit?
Yes.
And on the other side, I guess it would be 2 pits, right? Of course,
Right.
you don't have a pit under the stairs, right?
That's right.
So we've got something like 5 pits, something 6 pits?
Yes.
Right, so all of these are already done, finished,
Yes.
okay?
You hit any water? 1, 2,
I couldn't answer that.
okay, 3.
We couldn't answer that. Right, the bike storage room is bigger.
That's new?
That's new, so that's bigger than.
Okay, so you got bikes, so we have a gym and we have bike storage.
It's bigger,
Yeah, there was a bike storage room that was there, but this is a bigger room, is that correct?
that's right.
Did it have a door as well to that before?
Yes,
To the,
yes.
and that's just so you go out of, that? you go out that way? When it-
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. There was not previously a door out to the alley.
Okay.
There was always a door, of course, from inside the door.
So is that how you go in and out of the bike storage room?
Yeah, if you want.
Or is that emergency egress?
No, that's convenience. So if you want to bring your bike off the street up the alleyway and in, you can do it, rather than going through the door.
And how many bikes does it store?
More than what had been approved, am I correct?
That's right.
It was a bigger room,
Or bigger bikes?
or bigger bikes.
So how many parking spaces were taken out to accommodate the larger bike storage?
None. Because now we have the 3-car stackers that accommodated.
Okay, so how many parking spaces along that wall went from double
now
to
16.
triple or whatever?
It looks like it's one. Just one. One surface space was,
Can you just sort of scroll up a little? So okay, so now there are 2 slots for stacking. between the bike storage room and the stair tower. Previously, there were 4.
Right.
Okay.
So how
But
did,
those before were,
I love that there's more bike storage.
how did the bike storage become larger? Was it, you
They
took
ate
more
into
interior
those
room, or
parking spaces.
There were parking spaces.
there were parking spaces?
There were parking spaces there, but those were reconfigured for stackers
Yes.
rather than surface.
And I'm sure there's a reason why we didn't choose to make another parking space right next to the bike storage? That's all hashed out? Why wouldn't we put another parking space there?
What is that space?
That's just an open area. I believe it believes because of the proximity of the column
more
to
Yeah,
the
but
wall.
it's still not enough.
See?
Still not enough.
The column here to this wall is not really adequate for a car.
What's the distance?
What's it do? It looks bigger than the stackers.
It looks like it's about 7 feet. For driving the car in, it's really not adequate.
But the stackers are only 7 and change.
The outside perimeter, right?
Correct.
What's the inside perimeter?
Dimension over here, 7 feet, 7 inches.
Right, it was left over for, to facilitate the valet. Jockeying, so if you want to get, sneak a car in there and let something else out, you have it. That'll work.
Okay.
Good answer.
All right, were there any other changes on the ground floor?
let's talk about.
Besides the gym and the bike storage and digging up pretty much most of the garage?
Let's talk about the handicap. There was an accessible drop-off area that was added, am I correct?
That's correct.
All right, let's talk about that.
Okay, well, again, because
Where's
it's
that?
valet operation, right? So nobody's driving the car over there and getting out of the car themselves or parking the car. So that drop-off, because the valet is facilitating parking, if there is a disabled person pulling in, they will get dropped off right at that spot and then be able to go into the lobby. So
How?
the transition would be drop off from here, go this way, through this door into the lobby, or you can exit the elevator right from that door.
So only the handicap get dropped off there, right?
That's correct.
So like we're closer to the driveway is where everybody else gets out?
Yeah.
Can you show me that?
Well, Mr. Sacker
Mr. Sacker
provides the
provided
operation.
In terms of the operations and the staging and how that's gonna work with the valet.
Well, I'd just like to see what was designed to be a drop-off area.
But once you pull out a little bit so you can see the entire garage. Give it right to the front.
So was the drop-off area,
So the person driving that car pulls into the garage, pulls into that EDA's loading zone, and then gets out, and the valet person takes that car.
For the handicap,
For the handicap.
for the handicap.
what about the
For
non-handicap?
the rest of the operations, I'll defer to Mr. Sacker on that, on how the garage is gonna operate.
Well, tell me how the building was designed. I mean,
Well, again.
it doesn't matter how it was operated. I
Well, I
mean,
mean-
you design, a building, you're the architect and you designed the building. Did you design it for a drop-off area for non-handicapped drivers?
That is, that's an operational issue, because we have the width, and a valet can technically bring the car in from outside.
I don't know, isn't it, don't we have a
It's not that
notation or
the layout
something
is
about
architectural
drop-off?
operations, though, Mr. Sacker will testify to.
Where will the valet staff be at any given time?
Mr. Stacker will testify to that.
Let's go. Do we have, I mean, is there something about having, queuing for cars? I mean, again, I'm a New York City guy, so I know New York City, when you have, I went through this today, Avenue of the Americas, designing a garage, you have to have off-site queuing for cars.
The
Do we have
ordinance
it?
does not have any
Okay.
specific requirements for valet parking design.
There's not gonna be any off-site queuing, similar to New York, you pull in,
the garage.
No, you must, excuse me, you must have on-site queuing,
Yeah, you
not
said
outside. I'm sorry, I meant on-site.
No,
queuing.
that I agree with, correct.
Okay.
In terms of the garage doors, can
Yes,
you
Jim,
address
you
that?
have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm looking at this plan that you have up there that was, I realize I don't have the same plan that you do, but I look at this plan that is similar, and I get a garage floor elevation of 12.58. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I look up in the lobby, and that is the same elevation,
Correct.
except that there's a ramp going up from the sidewalk area, which is approximately the same elevation as the garage floor. You're going up several feet, you've got stairway going up from the sidewalk up to the lobby, and yet the lobby is at the same elevation as the garage floor.
Right, there's a ramp, you enter the garage and it ramps up. There's an elevation point next to the door of 9.63.
Yes, okay, but that's a far cry from 12.58, which is the elevation of the garage floor to the north of that elevation you just quoted. How do you,
Like this, here's this section showing the slope of the ramp up.
okay,
So here's the front, here, what is happening? I'm sorry. All right, good. Fantastic. You can see here, this is the front wall of the building, where the garage door would be, and this is the slope of the ramp, so we're at 9.63 at this point.
right,
And then, because this goes up to 12.58,
okay. And the lobby floor is
at the same level as the garage.
the same level as the garage, so the ramp is only 3 feet high going up?
Could you go back to look before that, no, not the elevation, to show the layout?
Sure.
Yeah, like when you come in the door, where you said the 9.63.
That's ground floor, yeah. So what was the question, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I wanted to see, so were these spaces on that, which when you show the elevation, you went from 9.63 up to 12, so this is a ramp up.
Correct, that's right.
So those cars are parked on the,
Yeah, just like any other parking garage where you have inclines and you're driving up and your
So the
entire
cars-
garage floor is a ramp, it's similar to that.
but those are not stackers there, those are just,
No.
those are just surface, sort of.
Just surface, right,
Got it.
6.
All right, can you address also the garage doors?
Yes, there was a change, there was previously approved 2 garage doors, and now we have one 18-foot wide by 8-foot high overhead door.
And how does that compare in terms of width to the 2 doors that have been approved?
Oh, it's similar to the double, so now we don't have a divider in between.
And
So
the
now it's
reason,
continuous.
and the reason for that change?
The reason for the change was to facilitate better entry and egress of cars. So you're limited with, if you have your single width of garage door, it's a little bit more difficult of a situation. This is a better to access.
Better ingress and egress, am I
That's
correct? With regard to that first floor, any other changes, or have you hit all the changes?
I believe we've hit all the changes.
All right, let's go, continue on.
Can I ask one question before we leave this plan? The engineering plan notes 19 feet 4 inches for the drive aisle, and the narrowest dimension I'm seeing on your plan is what you showed in the beginning, 20 feet and change. Where's that discrepancy coming from? Is there another area that's narrower somewhere, or?
Is that to the columns?
This dimension is taken to the column face.
And what about on the right side? Go all the way to the right, what are the dimensions on that driveway?
This is showing 21 foot 2 face of column to the stair enclosure.
What's the dimension to the face of the other column?
Which column? On the,
Well, if you go just south of that 21 foot 2 inch dimension,
Two columns.
you have columns opposite each other.
Oh, that would definitely be tighter. That would be,
All right.
yeah, that would be more into the 19 foot dimension.
Well,
Well, shouldn't we be able to see that? On a
we can,
plan?
we'll add that
We
dimension.
could add that.
I mean, just in general, we should be able to see where all the modifications, I mean, where all of these, if the measurement changes, we should be able to see it. So that we wouldn't have to ask these things.
We'll add that.
well, let me ask you, why did the columns, I assume the columns were initially all the same dimension?
Yeah, no, they haven't changed.
The locations haven't changed?
No, no.
From the approved plan, they have,
Have they?
yes.
You want to know?
I mean, I don't know how you testify to plans you didn't draw. What do I know?
We'll provide testimony from Mr. Sackman with regard to that change and why it was changed, those columns.
Mr. Brustonelli, how long have you been involved with this project?
I've been brought in several months ago. I was brought in
Be a little more specific,
2 months ago.
2 months ago? Okay, so you were not involved with the original design or construction of the
No.
project?
Is there a reason why who's the original,
Jose Carvalho?
is there a reason why he's not testifying?
Yes.
And?
There were, in my mind, too many issues with the plans.
I don't know what that means.
Um,
What does that mean?
Mr. Sackman can provide and illuminate more on that, but the architectural revisions that are being done now are more in line with how the plans should be prepared.
All right, how can we, I'm just curious, because now we're finding out that, you know, the columns have changed. We don't know why the columns have changed for some reason. We don't know why yet. Mr. Sackman will give that to us. How can I feel confident, and the board feel confident, that you're mentioning all of the changes when we're coming up with, oh, by the way, this changed too? I just want to feel confident that you're aware of all the changes and you tell us what they are as opposed to us finding them. So that's just a statement that I'm making.
Yeah, and can I say?
Just a statement.
Yeah, and I'd like to make a statement. You know, I just feel really uncomfortable. I mean, I make my living as an expert witness testifying to reports that I prepare. I'm really uncomfortable hearing testimony from a professional for plans that they did not prepare and don't have answers when we ask certain things. And then repeatedly when we ask a question, you'll say, Mr. Sackman will testify to it. I don't know, Mr. Sackman, I don't know if he's I know who he is. I don't know if he's a licensed architect, I don't know if he's a licensed engineer. And if he, you know, that he's gonna tell us why columns changed instead of an engineer.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody saying why things changed, and I don't think you have to be an architect or an engineer to be able to tell or explain why things changed.
Well, I think, I mean, if I don't think you would let me give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor,
I'm not
and I wouldn't
talking about
testify to
advice.
that. But so, I mean, if someone is going to give this board why columns changed, and we wanted to know the technical reason behind that, I mean, I think it would have to be the expert.
That is correct.
Oh.
We can get general answers from But specifics, in terms of the technical, specific questions, the person who
Well,
made those changes.
the technical aspects in terms of where the columns are and where they've been placed in the building, I would agree, but sometimes there are reasons that necessitate a change in a plan that the person that's building or the company that's building the building has that information. They're doing the building. Now, the architect and the engineer will testify as to the plans and what was done, but sometimes the underlying reason why a design change had to be made is from the person that's putting up the building.
The architecture, if that detail is a technical issue of why it had to be changed. We can get Carter's opinion, but we don't know technically without asking Jose, who made the actual changes, that says, look, I put the columns in the wrong spot, or I put them in the right spot, or they can't handle the load that I put on them when they were over here. That's something that's a technical question. Those are technical questions that either an engineer or an architect that's made the changes has to back it up. They've got the degrees and the experience and the licenses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I get Carter telling us in general, well, this isn't gonna work, and I can guarantee you, I'm gonna get a ton of hearsay. You're excellent at cross, and you know and I know, I'm gonna get a ton of hearsay.
It's not gonna be hearsay. You're gonna get a reason as to why the columns had to be changed.
it's hearsay because he is not an expert in that
No,
field.
that's not what
That's
hearsay is. That's not hearsay.
He heard it.
If it's something that I would need to hear, or the board needs to hear it from Jose or an engineer, then I'm not gonna take him, he told me this, and that's why we did it.
You're not gonna get it. He
Okay.
told me this.
All right, okay, all right.
Because that
I
would
just
be
don't wanna
hearsay, but
waste
that's not what you're gonna get.
Okay, all right, I trust you. But I think Dan's statements are fair. Architects, he's taking responsibility for this. For better or for worse, he's married into the project, he's gotta give us the technical answers, and if he doesn't have them, he's gotta get them for us. Because he's accepted the responsibility that since Jose, he's standing in front of.
That I'm not disagreeing with. He has accepted the responsibility. He's providing the testimony. There's some column dimensions and widths that have to be provided. We'll provide those.
Okay.
All right, but there's a reason that they changed.
I get it, and Carter's gonna enlighten us on a whole lot of stuff. I'm
Absolutely.
so sure it's gonna happen tonight in the next 18 minutes, but sooner or later, we're gonna get to that. But I think from the questions that are being asked, David's gotta give us more responsive answers.
Sure, we'll get those answers to you.
Okay, no problem. And that's surmising what the chair is.
And we're gonna hear why the architect of record is not testifying. We're gonna hear that story.
No, as
No?
the person that originally prepared the plans is not working now fully, when I say work, he's participating, he signed the plans, but Mr. Bucinelli has taken over the responsibility of working with him on the revisions and making sure the proper revisions get on these plans and things that are required to be on the plans are on the plans. And we'll continue to make sure that what has to get in the plans are correct and included within the plans.
You know, I'm going to respond to whatever the board requires of us, not a problem. I'll gather the information, get them on the drawings, and that's not a problem.
Okay.
Since we are on this topic with regard to the basement, which is a big topic, obviously, the garage, the stackers and whatnot, if we can at least allow Mr. Sackman to illuminate the board, interrupt Mr. Bucinelli's testimony at this point, and have Mr. Sackman fill in some of the information, I think would assist the board with regard to this
I
application.
despise having two witnesses on the road at the same time, especially when
It's
a
up to
lot of
you.
questions go back and forth, it turns into a circus.
So stop his testimony here.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I've been at this for 44 years, I'm good. We could do that, we could finish with this gentleman, and if we have to recall, we can recall. you want it, that's up to you.
I mean, there's a lot more, obviously, testimony that we have to take from him.
I get that.
We're not gonna finish it all tonight, that we know.
Not a chance.
Right, but it's a good place to break because it's the inside of the building.
That's what I was
The
saying.
outside is coming up now.
But have there been any other changes to the inside of the building that we need to know? And will Mr. Sackman be done in 18 minutes?
No,
It's not gonna happen.
not a chance.
Let's be real. Let's be real. So we have to decide what's the best use of these next 18 minutes.
15.
Is he finished?
I would submit that since we are on one of the main areas of the building, that first floor, before we leave tonight, we provide some illumination as to the changes that were made, why they were necessitated, why they were made. I think Mr. Sackett would be best qualified to provide that information.
And can I say, could we get the right set of plans for the next time?
I want you to have the right set of plans the next time.
Is it possible to get a revised set of drawings with the changes on them? The board has a set of drawings, no titles, no nothing.
The ones that were submitted, that we had submitted, have that information.
So
We'll submit them again.
the submitted plans have revision clouds and keynotes. So you clearly identify every place where there's a change.
Well, the plans are not revised, approved plans. It's a separate plan created for this event. And so, over the course of revisions that were submitted for completeness and the various process getting to tonight, those are clouded and there is some key notes.
Would it be possible to, besides the plans, then to give us a list of what the changes are
Oh, sure.
on a piece of paper? So we can-
100%.
But we
That'd be
need some
very helpful.
assurance that it's a complete list and that to Chairman
That's right.
Kuzak's point, that we are not the ones discovering the changes.
I mean, we can certainly provide that, we can write a narrative. Write some
I'd
narrative.
rather have just a
We can
list.
bullet point.
Bullet point
everything.
list.
Bullet point to be great.
So we
That's
feel
no issue.
confident that
Sure.
you've provided us with all the changes and that we're not finding the changes.
And keep in mind, what we have, the plans that were submitted do have the bubbled areas reflected. I know you don't have that. I'm directed to submit to a particular person that I did.
That's fine, I don't think that that's what our concern
not
is.
talking about
Our concern is
this stuff.
changes. What are the changes? Do we have all the changes? That's what my concern is, to feel confident.
That's not an issue, that's easy enough to do.
Okay.
We'll do it bullet point.
Okay,
But we do have 15 minutes left, and again, we can continue with this testimony, but I think for the board's edification, for its clarification, to have Mr. Sackman provide testimony, particularly with regard to what we're discussing at this point on that ground floor, I think would help.
I
That's
personally,
what
I doubt that Mr. Sackman, though he is very knowledgeable, can tell us all about all of the different dimensions of every parking space and the drive aisles and why each one was changed in the next 10 minutes.
No, but he can provide testimony in terms of the parking system that he's utilizing, why he got that, and what that requires.
It's your 10 minutes. And we just have to go with Mr. Serpico to say, how do we do that transition
They
properly?
can excuse the witness, bring Carter in, and he can talk about that parking system for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay? Subject to recall, obviously. Sure. Can slip down. Carter, let's get you up.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. I will swear the testimony about giving this matter with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell
Carter Sackman.
it. Got it. Go.
Mr. Sackman, what is your affiliation with this project?
I'm managing member of the owning entity.
And you're familiar with the building of this building, am I correct?
Yes.
What I want to do, just for tonight's purposes, I just want to limit your testimony to that ground floor and the parking system and the installation of that parking system. What necessitated that, what changes were made, and then what do you have to do with regard to the building as a result?
Well, the impetus of it was to increase the parking count. Obviously, we have a parking issue in the central business district, so at the time, and, you know, this was a 5-year project, so we were in the middle of COVID, and things had stopped, and we had some alterations, we were looking to come back to the board to increase that count. And some of those things didn't get heard at the time, we had to make decisions in order to accommodate the additional parking. When we looked at this, everything was mentioned earlier, was a 2-stacker vehicle lift on all the spaces that are presently there, including the 6 on the ramp.
And that was what was approved, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What we did was, we looked at the code and we realized, hey, you know, potentially we could add another one. We were using a Chinese group, sourced mechanical equipment through an American-based company, American Automotive, parking, and we wanted to make vehicle elevator pits, storage pits, that we could increase the count to 25. And so we analyzed that design and worked with American Automotive. And in order to accommodate that, we not only had to put various elevator car pits in those locations, which were identified earlier, roughly 6 of them. But we also had to alter some of the column width slightly, it's actually slightly, in order for those those car trays to move vertically up and down and access the drive aisles. So that's where the slight adjustments came on the columns. We looked at it, these are mechanical pits, so remember we're about a foot out of we actually built the elevation at the drive aisles at actually a foot higher than we initially got approved for, at 12.58. And so you drive up to the 12.58 elevation, the valet takes your car will be taken really where that drop-off is that you see in front of the elevator there, where it's designated handicap. That'll be a drop-off area, that's the queuing area. From there, the car pulls in, it stops, the valet attendant will be there. We can queue up about 6 cars.
So that's not just for handicap?
That's not just for handicap as far as the queuing goes. The queuing is in the drive aisle and works its way back towards the entrance of the drive.
But, like, the people, where's non-handicapped people get out of the car? Where do they pull
Right
up
where those
to?
arrows are, right in front of the handicap spots.
So they get off the same place as
They
the
get off
handicap
the
people?
same spot.
And
The
they
thing
can,
is-
and they can walk through the handicap
And they
spot?
can walk through the handicap to get to the elevator.
Okay, so it's not just a handicap place?
It's not just a
It's a
handicap.
job, okay.
It services both, but I think one of the comments were, you know, where do the handicap go? I think we were responding to that.
Okay.
But it's actually the same pathway, and then you have,
Who determined that the columns had to be adjusted?
that was a combination between American Automotive, who did the design work for all the pits, and our structural structural engineer and architect.
Who was the structural engineer on this?
On this job was LMW Structural Engineering firm. They're based out of New York.
Did they testify originally in this?
They did not.
Okay.
No. And then I'll just answer the question, Jose Carvalho, is just, we were looking for, David Mook came in, got familiar with the plans so that he could help facilitate some of the amendments we need, because Carvalho actually was just not getting it done in a timely manner. And this building, as you can see, is completed. It's a vacant, finished building for the most part that has 80 people that would love to move in, that can't move in. So we're trying our best to get a lot of these items addressed. Any other questions on the parking, I'll be more than happy to answer it. Somebody mentioned something about the DEP earlier. We have this out with the DEP. We're looking to get their blessing. They're evaluating the definition of a car pit. Is it an elevator mechanical pit, or is it an enclosure? It's our determination. It's an elevator mechanical pit. And
Haven't you received something from them that says?
I have received it, but we went back to the commissioner.
Yeah, don't,
I'm
You
just
have anything
saying,
official to give us, that document? No.
Okay.
Don't tell me what's going on.
We anticipate having a resolution very soon.
We anticipate having a resolution,
You can bring it to us.
yeah.
So,
I'm in that process right now with the DEP, but that's the gist of it. Is it an elevator, mechanical lift? Or is it a enclosure? Yeah, so, and so, listen, the whole motivation was just to increase parking count in the district. We didn't have to, it came at a great expense, we thought it was the right thing to do, maybe it was wrong, I don't know. If we're unsuccessful, then we have to fill the pits and go back to 2-story stackers.
Is it all intended for residential for this building?
It's all for residential, but it also hooks up to the other buildings. So this is all ancillary. You've got, 32 units behind it, 60 units there, that's 92. This is also has 550 Cookman also has retail on it. You have workers there, you have owners there that operate those businesses that need places to park.
That would be residential parking, and that would be home parking.
Excuse me?
That would be residential parking in it. Business
But
owners.
it's for
But
tenants.
it is set up that they're for tenants. I have retail tenants.
But you're allowed, when you look at,
Actually, this is one of the few parking lots that I have that ability, if you look at the original approval.
Yep.
so can you please clarify once again? I know that this is supposed to be, this supposed to be for 550 and 545 residents or tenants that could be retail also?
It's tenant, operator, owners, and their staff.
So their staff could be in here also?
Correct.
They're not owners, they're not residents, they're just.
but that was previously approved.
I understand, I'm just trying to understand that,
It's all ancillary to the building.
right, for 545 and 550, that's it, nobody else.
That is correct.
But is so many allocated to owners and so many gonna be allocated
Well, it's
to,
all rentals, but,
so is it first come, first served? Or is it assigned
I mean,
spaces?
if we,
Well, it won't be assigned because they're staffers.
I'm hoping with the valet.
Well, but there's enough spaces for every unit? If everybody has a car?
Yes.
Yes,
Just one car,
if everybody has one car.
yeah. If they, that somebody might have 2 cars. And then the staff, but I think if anything, we might have excess parking,
Okay.
but we'll see. With a valet, you run the benefit of using drive aisles too, during peak time for the valet.
Well, that's,
You're New York City
you're not
guy,
supposed,
you know.
well, everybody, first thing I do is look at the licensed spaces, and they're always exceeding it, right? So,
Yeah, but
okay.
we're 113 with the triples.
Can we guarantee that all queuing cars will be on site? Because I really would not see.
Yeah, well, just so you know, we've looked at Laz to manage this, who manages iStart. So I was just on the phone with Omar the other day. They run the Ocean Club. They have, for the hotel portion of it, because they have a larger 350-car garage, I believe, they allocate 100 for the hotel, of which they do 4-car queue. And it's all on site. We'll have enough for 6. And,
Was this
I think
on
we'll have less activity than a hotel, to be fair.
Was this on pilings, the pilings here?
They're piles.
So, I mean, there's none, of course, under the pits where you had right, they just,
Now you're getting technical. I don't want to I can't get too, it's with the structural design. I know, I don't know
Well,
how many
obviously, you
piles,
couldn't
I don't
dig
know how many
out-
piles,
Or the helical comments.
yeah, I don't know how many piles they put in there. It was a while ago. It was a long time ago. It was a 5-year project or 6 years. It's been a long time.
When did these changes come to light?
Well, which changes?
The 3 stackers.
The 3
Let's start with the
stackers
3 stackers.
and
The
the
3 stack
column?
was, I want to say, 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
and why? I know,
Just to increase the,
what, so you want to
the
have
idea
to,
was to increase the, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
so was there cost benefit of not paying into the fund?
No.
We paid into the fund already.
I paid into the fund. It was, I have other projects that are in here that I would love to see get done, that I know comes to a parking count. I have a master schedule that I've gone over with the city multiple times about all our projects, and how do we get more projects done, whether it's a hotel or another project on 607 Madison, which is right next to the press room. We have a 24,000 square foot lot. We'd like to do something, I'd like to bring a grocer in. But every time we look at this analysis, it's always like, well, what's the parking demand you're gonna create, and what's your supply? So I look at it holistically in the central business district. And so I looked at it like, forget about paying into the fund, there's also a reality. You can pay into the fund all you want, but if the fund isn't creating a deck or creating spaces, it's still a problem. So we figured this was an innovative way. And by the way, it's not something that you see too common. That's probably why the DEP's having a little bit of, struggle with understanding it. That's happened across New Jersey. I think it's pretty clever. By the way, this building also, just so you know, it's just because I'm up here, we're late here, but whatever. We have, in the last 3 projects, we have all electrical mini splits, right? No carbon footprint with those, supposedly. All on the roof, designed in our last 3 700 banks, 527 in this project. This is one of the few, if only, buildings that also are irrigation system, and the 550 building on its toilets all work off a gray water system. Tanks off the roof that are in the basement of 550.
Can we just stick to, we have just a few minutes, please. Let's just stick with this. So tell me, is there any, do you have any concerns at all that there are any flood hazards here by digging 6 feet
Not at
in?
all. Not at
You
all.
have no concerns?
Not at all.
To the safety of the people that are going to be living here until you get these approvals?
So here's the thing, the flood hazard level, right, out in the street, is we're up above the flood hazard level when you access the pits. All those pits were made with waterproof concrete and sealed on the outside. We can give you the specs, we provide the same specifications.
We're not professionals that way. We need
No,
the
but
DEP
No,
to
I'm
give you
just-
the approvals.
I'm just saying, I understand that, and we provided that information to the DEP, and they're reviewing it. And so hopefully, we'll have, if they don't agree and we have a problem, I'm gonna have to fill the pits.
Okay.
So we took a lot, a big financial risk to hopefully this happens, hopefully it won't be a problem. Logically though, if those cars, because we don't have ample space for both buildings, logically, if those cars are not parked in those pits, where do they go? They go in the street where they're in the flood hazard zone. So the only way for the water to access those pits is to go up to 12.58 elevation and have a flood, which is beyond the 100-year flood, and access those pits and go in. And to what? To get a car. So are they safer in that pit or on the street, which you're automatically in the flood hazard?
It's not the cars being safe, it's your building being safe. The
How's
whole
that?
point of having your flood vents is because water is expected to enter that building and it needs to get out. If it gets
Right.
below the floor, now you've created a structural compromise.
Yeah, but the only way they're
Which
gonna get up.
I can't get into because this is,
But the only
even
way
though
they're
I'm
gonna
a
get up to that
CFM,
elevation is to get to 12.5.
which is why we have an inland flood rule being published next month, because the DEP says everything we've been basing stormwater regs on is out of date.
And
So
we'll-
all these elevations are out of date.
Well, they.
Okay, all right.
So-
That's,
But
My
this
question, though,
discussion
is-
will
We also
continue.
have-
You said you're gonna use the drive aisles for parking cars?
For queuing.
For just for queuing?
No, he said.
No, I heard parking.
Could, I hope so.
Well, that's
I
what
heard
I
parking.
wanna understand that, because the vehicle circulation pattern was one of the checklist items. We-
That's right.
If we're going to understand the number of cars and the volume, so I wanted to clarify.
We have it in
We
a-
heard
we have
some
it in a
testimony about how the
113.
valet works, so are you going to be staging cars in the drive aisles?
For queuing. We have 113 cars. Right now, between 3 stackers, 2 stackers, and service now.
All right, we're at 10 o'clock, a little bit after.
Let's get a new date.
Can we have a new date, please? To carry? My assumption is that we would probably want to have this application all by itself. So we already have something for the 5th. I would assume it's
For
the
the 5th.
Why don't
the
we-
week after.
Why don't we do this?
Fifth.
Can we switch and then this one the fifth?
No, we already,
People already left.
we already left, they already left. 6:14 already
Why
left.
don't we do this then? Let's put this on with the other one for the fifth.
It's against my better judgment because you're not gonna be done.
But
I'm just
if-
saying.
If we can put this on with the other one for the fifth.
That's your call.
December 5th.
Sorry?
December 5th.
Yes, December 5th.
Time extension needed to get this?
Good. Could I get a motion to move this application, to carry this application to December 5th, 7 PM?
Second.
No further notice.
Second.
She's gonna, Our secretary is going to vote.
Oh, apologies.
Roll call.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're still in order, so please be quiet, everyone.
So we're taking a vote for, to move this to the 5th, no further notice. Mayor John Moore,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton,
Yes.
James Bonanno,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Eric Gallopo,
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo.
Yes.
Chairwoman Barbara
Yes.
Kozak.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn?
I second. Motion to adjourn.
And we're done.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
10 to 4 p.m.